Dr. Gorka, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, thank you.
Right. What do you? What? Yeah, I'll ask you a little bit. It just seems like I'll ask in a few minutes once we actually kick off the space a little bit. But man, I'm telling you, this Twitter war between the DeSantis and Trump camps are getting quite intense.
It's fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's fun until I keep thinking about I just and you've been in politics as well, longer than I have, and I don't know. I guess I'll go ahead and ask you. Do you think is it even possible for these two camps to get together after the primary, no matter who wins?
I'm always puzzled by people on the right who say, "Oh my gosh, how can we do this? How can we be criticizing each other?" It's like, what are we, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union? I mean, really, we can't disagree. We're ripping each other apart. No, it's called primaries, okay? We don't have to love each other. And just remember what Kamala said about Biden, and what they said about what Hillary said about Tulsi Gabbard. The idea that we have to be monolithic is insane. It's un-American. And of course, we'll come together. Whoever the candidate is who wins will get the votes of every reasonable person who's on the right. So people need to stop thinking that we are two monolithic sides. I just don't get people who are so simplistic.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that if you remember, I'm sure you do, Dr. Gorka, back in 2016 when Ted Cruz and Donald Trump were the front runners at the time, and I mean some of those attacks were vicious back and forth, and
Yeah,
now
and,
it
now- and now they
some
now they have an excellent relationship. So people
exactly.
have no historic context. They just forget these things, and they think there's politics as normal. Politics has changed forever. When 64 million Americans chose a non-politician to be president, and we had 17 people from the establishment who he destroyed on the primary platforms. It's a different kind of politics today, and people need to wake up and understand that.
Right. So Heather, I'll go ahead and bring you in here while we still get the panel together here. We're working on that pretty
Well, how does
ferociously.
this work? How long do you wait until you get going? What's like the minimum number?
Yeah, no, we don't typically have a minimum number of a waiting period, but it just depends on how many panelists we've been able to reach and get up on stage. Because obviously that's all pre-planned, and the team in the background's working on bringing them all up. But sometimes it takes a little longer than
And,
usual.
and how
It's
did you get
usually like
involved
five
with
to
with
7 days.
running these things?
Say again.
How did you get involved with running these things?
I came up on stage back in December, actually, with Ron DeSantis, or not Ron DeSantis, Thomas Massey. Um, and then after that, I just kind of stuck around and never left. So
Got it. And what's your day job?
my day job at this point, it's going around to different places in the United States, covering different stories, like East Palestine. I was there for a month and a half covering that entire story. I don't know if you knew anything about that, but I was
Oh yeah, no, I remember. I remember.
yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
would have heard about it. It wasn't you being there.
Right.
I appreciate that, and I think it's a story that I'm going to go back there next week and hopefully spend about 2 weeks more there because I don't want people to forget about that story.
Good.
Um, it's a tragedy, and Joe Biden is still ignoring it. Quite frankly, President Trump went there. He brought, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars worth of supplies, cleaning supplies, water, which was extremely necessary because the people they still don't trust their tap water. And then Joe Biden kept making the promise, oh, he's going to go, he's going to go. And then you have Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for Joe Biden, saying that, oh, well, Joe Biden's been to Ohio before. Oh, well, great. That solves all the problems.
Yeah, somebody needs to start covering that story again.
I
Just
agree.
like he's
And we'll
been to
do
the
it.
border, right? Remember when she said, "Oh, he's been to the border. He's been to the border." No, it was
Yep.
Kamala Harris had said that when it was like for a campaign stop 5 years ago or something.
Yep. So, Dr. Gorka, that was another thing. I just got back from the border a week ago, covering that. Well, it was a week and a half ago now, but
Where
covering the
did you
border
go?
situation. I went to Brownsville. I was in McAllen for a while. I was pretty much bouncing between those areas because, as you know, Texas is a huge state,
Right.
and I'm from Kentucky, and I drove down there. It was a 20-hour drive each way. So I mean, is the further west that I go, it was getting to the point where it was going to end up being a 24, 25-hour drive. Where I think that needs a lot of attention down there is there is no complete border at all. There are places where it's very easy for people just to walk over the Rio Grande, right? It's not very deep in a lot of places. You have Brownsville, Texas, which is right across from Matamoros, Mexico. I went into Matamoros, Mexico, and I ended up, going into this migrant camp that had over 5,000 people in it waiting to cross over. There is no border wall on the other side, Dr. Gorka. That was one of the
Yep.
things that Trump wanted to put in place, and they blocked him.
Yep. It's absolutely incredible. Incredible.
I feel like at this point we actually
And
don't have borders because I just went to Newburgh, New York, and these illegal immigrants are being stashed in these hotels all over our country right now. So it's almost like to say that there's a border crisis doesn't actually apply anymore because we no longer have borders. These NGOs are distributing these people all over our country. So it could be the border crisis could now literally be in your backyard.
Nick, can you hear me?
I can.
It's clear, isn't it? It's not echoey.
No, it's not echoey at all, actually.
Awesome. Right, so Nick, do you want to give us an update? We've had a marathon, I'd say 72 hours. So if you want to give an update about what happened, get the audience up to date, and then we'll start the show.
Yeah, so it seems, as I was saying a little bit earlier when we first started, there seems to be an ongoing Twitter war between the DeSantis camp and the Trump camp. And I don't just mean staffers or advisors or anything like that. I'm talking about, fierce supporters of both sides that have been going after each other to the point where you had the vice president of marketing at the Babylon Bee ended up being removed from his post. That's how bad it got because he was was pushing back, to say the least, on I believe DeSantis's
on me
chief advisors, Christine Pushaw.
But
And yeah,
that wasn't why he was fired.
Yeah, so can you go into that a little bit more? I don't know if
I
you followed
can.
that
It
story.
was in response to me. It was something I posted, and he reacted to something that I posted. I put it in the nest.
What was the reaction, just for the people that can't just listen audibly?
Sure. I mean, I editorialized a bit, so I'll try to be neutral here. He said you should ask me if I get paid to tweet, and if I deny it, then you should ask me if DeSantis pays me. Then you should ask me if his PACs pay me, or anyone related to him pays me. And even though he knows that I'm not paid, and then I said, Gavin used to receive a paycheck that was financed by Miles Guo. You should ask him about it. And then I guess Christina liked that tweet, and then Gavin said, I worked at Getter. It's on my LinkedIn. So what? Am I responsible for the actions of a former employer? Sorry. Am I responsible for the actions of a former employer, someone I met maybe 5 times in my life? Are you trying to accuse me of something, you schmuck? And apparently Christina liked that. And then he said, he sent some more tweets. And then Seth said, don't do that. And then Gavin quote tweeted him and said something. I forget what that was. And then he was relieved of his duties.
Mac. Well, didn't he say it was the language? Didn't Seth say it was like the language necessarily?
Hang on a second. The tweet that's posted at the top here, I think you wrote. I don't know who you are, Max, but you wrote, "Got a paycheck from international criminal Miles Guo." You do know he hasn't been prosecuted of anything, right? You know that's slanderous, right?
Is that slanderous, Max?
Has he been arrested?
Yeah, that doesn't make you a criminal. You know that, right?
Okay, good to know.
Sebastian knows everything, Max. You know, I mean, this guy is
Can we get rid of Chris?
so.
Can we get hey
He wants
Nick?
rid of me. You
Can we just
blocked
get rid
me.
of this guy
You
because he's just a
blocked me.
dickhead?
Yeah,
Get
so,
rid of him.
Chris, let's keep some decorum.
All right, can I go here really quick? Hey, because I don't have much time.
One second, Chris.
All right.
Chris. I just want to go to Chief just to give a different perspective, because that was Max's perspective from his side. I know Chief wrote a thread as well, so I'd just like to hear his perspective as well, and that we have a bit of a balance about what happened, and then we can start the debate. Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, so for context, so Max did put that tweet out, and Christina was liking those tweets.
Got no sound here.
Yeah.
Okay, Sebastian, I'll drop you down and bring you back up.
Okay.
Continue,
Yeah,
Chief.
so basically she was liking the tweets, and a lot of employees in the past at Babylon Bee have used expletives and other slurs like that. And this is while they were actually employed. So, for instance, there is a tweet from one of the employees at Babylon Bee saying, "I don't give a F" about Ashley Babbitt. Other tweets also surface with, F off, all these things. So there have been employees who currently work at Babylon Bee who have been cursing, have been using slurs and other language like that. So the reason why Gavin was reacting this way was that Christina was liking tweets insinuating some sort of criminal thing or whatever, which is totally wrong. And it was really just a stupid tweet where we're saying, well, teehee, Gavin gets a check from someone. It was a stupid tweet, and she was liking it and all of that, endorsing that language. So he called her out, said, "What are you doing?" And basically Seth, despite
what was the exact phraseology of his
it was with a curse
of
word.
his
It had an F word in it. So
I read that.
yeah.
It wasn't that bad. Like, if you want to read it, have you got it
Yeah,
in
I
front of you?
do.
Because
I
I
can
think
go
contextually, when you explain it, it sounds much worse. When I read the tweet, I was like, "What? He got fired for that?" But anyway, if you want to read it,
yeah. So the tweet there, it says here. Sorry, I literally just had it up 2 seconds ago. Yeah, it said, "Hey Christina, what's your effing problem?" That's what
She triggered him.
Right. So, he tweets that out, and because he used a curse word apparently or whatever, the language wasn't too acceptable for his standards. He goes and subtweets Gavin saying, "I don't like your tone" or whatever. And Babylon Bee's Seth Dillon said in the past that's okay to defend yourself, and if you're worried about being fired from a tweet, do it anyway. And then said another tweet in the past that it's okay to defend yourself on Twitter. So with all these double standards, I'll wrap it up really quickly. With all the double standards with Babylon Bee, it's clear that one, Seth Dillon has said in the past that it's okay to defend yourself on Twitter, and if you're at risk of being fired, he said to do it anyway. So number two, employees at that place use curse words, use slurs, and things of that nature. So it's ridiculously hypocritical for them to fire him over a crass word when they do all the time in the past. And
That's not according to Seth. So I recommend Suleiman and Nick, you reach out to him now. So as soon as I saw the
to
story,
clarify,
okay, good.
wait, hold on.
we've reached out to.
Wait, to
Can I
clarify,
say-
something?
1 second, Chris.
Hang on.
Okay.
Real quick.
As soon as I saw the news, I reached out to Seth because he's been on my show, and I said, "Is this true?" And he gave me a long DM about what his reasons are, and it's not about curse words. So I would say before we go further, have Gavin, have Seth, have people actually know what they're talking about, give their sides of the story.
Okay. All right.
I
Thank you,
think
Sebastian.
I neutrally.
Sorry, guys. We've invited Seth and the gentleman who got fired
Great.
as well. So yeah, hopefully they'll be coming. Well, I'll definitely the
Well,
guy.
if anybody
who got fired.
does know Seth that is in the audience, definitely give him a shout. Tell him
I'll send him the link now.
All right. Yeah. Bring
Brilliant.
Seth
I
in here.
think
But
we agree. I think we generally agree at the progression of things that happened. The question then goes to like the motive behind the ultimate decision, but I don't think there's too much agreement on the progression of events. It's not a terribly complicated series of events.
Max,
and
I'll
can I cut in here for a minute? I don't have.
Sorry, guys. I want to go to Chris. Chris, let me go to you. And let me ask you a question, and then you can add your bit as well, Chris. Chris, one of the insinuations or one of the concerns people from the Trump side have is Babylon B is being funded by DeSantis, and essentially this was a hit job by the DeSantis team. Chris, go ahead.
Nobody on the DeSantis team made Gavin Mario Wax have a childish meltdown on Twitter and embarrass himself. And I think we're not looking at the big story here. These people like Gavin Mario Wax, like the MAGA Johnny and all these other people have been talking smack nonstop for 6 straight months. And Christina Pushaw has kept her mouth, has stayed back, and the team DeSantis has stayed back. Now, all of a sudden, after just one day, and she didn't even hit him hard. Come on. I mean, this is like funny stuff here, and they just can't take it. They have this whole meltdown, and they're crying about being doxxed, and oh my goodness, Team DeSantis is so mean to us, and Christina is so mean, and we can't believe it. And these are all men, and it's really sad to see what MAGA men have turned into, because they're really being a bunch of babies. They've been doing nothing but attacking, and then Christina comes, and finally the gloves are off a little bit. She barely taps them, and they're all crying. And then she gets all these people, instead of being an actual man, which I've screwed up before, and I apologize when I mess up. But instead of being an actual man about it and being like, okay, you got under my skin a little bit, he starts this Me Too style campaign where he's got all these other guys that are like that guy in Grassa, and all these other guys are like, I stand with Maria, or I stand with Gavin, like some kind of like Me Too thing. And this is just embarrassing. Watching them play the victim. Look, just take responsibility. This shows Trump never takes responsibility for what he does. These are Trump's disciples. They don't take responsibility for anything they do. And, it was just kind of funny that they couldn't even handle, like, what was it, like 26 hours of Christina Pushaw before these men, they all basically got beat up by a girl and started crying about it.
So you're saying we're allowed to go and defend ourselves, right? You're saying we have if we're playing equal playing ground here, we're able to respond to a person who likes a tweet that insinuates that someone's a criminal. We're okay to defend ourselves, right?
Well, you can defend
Yes,
yourself,
I
but
think we're kind of getting off topic here. Like he wasn't.
Max, I'm trying to get.
He was fired after
Chris
he
for,
after he
hold on.
after he.
Wait, Max, I'm trying to explain that Chris is saying this whole thing about crying or whatever. We're playing an equal playing field here. We have the ability to go and defend ourselves, and for Gavin to defend himself in a tweet. You can go and say boo-hoo all you want, but we're playing equal playing field here. If she does something like liking a tweet, calling you a criminal, or insinuating that, he can just say what's going on with that. And if you use the expletive and she didn't like the expletive too much, or Seth felt like a snowflake too much, didn't like the curse word, or how you want to phrase it, I don't really attribute that. But he has the ability to defend himself, just as she has the ability to go and maybe snarky comments. So when he hits back, he gets fired. So your argument's kind of a bit flawed in that sense.
Well, look,
yeah, I mean, Max, let me bring up Chris one second,
bro. One second.
Chris, I need to go to somebody else. Max, let me ask you this, because you were basically the star point of this issue. I mean, I don't understand Chris's argument, because essentially this isn't someone being able to take it. If anything, wasn't this a case that essentially the guy who defended himself, he used a slur word, but essentially he got fired? So isn't it that the DeSantis camp are more thin-skinned, and they don't want anyone to say anything to them? If they do, you get fired.
So here's what happened. And again, you can't read Seth Dillon's mind. You can't read Seth Dillon's mind, but like the progression of what happened was that Gavin said what he said to Christina. Seth had to cut it out, and then Gavin quote tweeted Seth and said something aggressive. I don't know. That
happened afterwards, though, didn't it, Max?
But no,
but Max, that didn't happen.
I'm not saying that this is.
No, but Max, sorry, that didn't happen, did it? What happened was, I know your incident happened first. Then he wrote that tweet to Christian Pershaw and said, "What the f," or whatever the word was, and then Seth Dillon then responds and says, "Take Babylon B out of your bio," essentially saying you're fired.
No, that's not the total. Right? That's not the progression.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Please go ahead.
Oh, well, Seth's here, so yeah, no, but I mean, I'll just lead into it because Seth's now here, but no, what happened was he said what the fuck, and then Seth disputed that, and then Gavin quote tweeted Seth and said, "I forget," and then Seth said, "Take it out of your bio." So, but now we have Seth here, so he can.
Let's go to Seth. So sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Seth, welcome to the panel. I want to ask you, like, Just overall, give me your thoughts on the entire situation. We've kind of gone over it a little bit. I don't know if you've heard any of it.
No, I
So
just joined, so
give us your thoughts.
I don't know what you guys have said up to this point.
Well, we just started, Seth. We're just trying to find out what happened. I mean, is it a situation where there was a form of censorship going on, and what was the reason why it seems to the public that you fired him based on that using that slur word? So please correct us and let us know like what was the situation.
I wouldn't describe it as a situation where censorship occurred. I think this is a case where we have somebody who, you know, has the Babylon Bee in their bio, is an employee of the Babylon Bee. He was running our marketing campaigns and was engaging in really nasty public behavior. You know, he was demeaning people, calling people fat, calling them names, cursing, a lot of vulgarity, a lot of vile stuff that just reflects very poorly on us. I don't want people. We're a Christian satire site. I don't want people out there talking to other people like that with our name in their bio. And I strongly object to that. And when in addition to that, you know, it goes a lot deeper than that. There's other issues at play. I can't speak to all of it, but you know, it's public record how many times this guy tweets during the day. I was paying him to tweet essentially, and paying him to tweet nasty things. I don't think I have any obligation to continue doing that any longer than I want to. So
Seth, one of the biggest you know, counter arguments to this situation is that you have also tweeted vulgar things in the past. Some of those tweets have surfaced. I mean, so the argument, you know, maybe you can clarify the difference between that and what we saw yesterday with Gavin.
I've seen some of the tweets that people are screenshotting. They looked up the word shit apparently on my page. Advanced Twitter search brought up a few tweets where I was quoting people who had said the word shit, and in quotation marks I quoted them multiple times. I don't think that's the same thing as spending my entire day on someone else's payroll trashing other people with vile language. Do you think that's the same thing?
Well, so what I will do is, I believe you're referring to Tara, who is up on stage. So I'll let Tara jump in there. Go ahead, Tara.
I honestly am just curious. It seems that, you know, from my perspective and watching all of this unfold, that Gavin was more so defending himself against a lot of the Babylon Bee employees who were piling on to a tweet by Max here on stage, who was claiming that he was involved with some illegal, nefarious activity. So in turn, he defended himself.
Which Babylon Bee employees? I'm not aware of any of that. I didn't see any other Babylon Bee employees.
Christina was
She is not a Babylon Bee employee.
The comment.
She's not a Babylon Bee employee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, my bad. I was under the impression that she worked for you guys.
She's a DeSantis campaign staffer.
Right, correct. So she was piling on. He defended himself against her. You, in turn, defended her, and then fired him publicly. Didn't, you know, reprimand him privately. Conducted yourself in a very public way to make a sort of display, an example out of Gavin, is how it seems.
Yeah, I didn't defend anybody. I just really quickly going back to that issue of I've used vulgarity. I mean, I explained, it was kind of glazed over, but I just explained that these were tweets where I was quoting somebody else who was using curse words.
Several Babylon Bee employees do use vulgarity constantly. There are plenty of screenshots out there, and they do have the B, you know, on their profile. One account, MJ, I believe her name is, even has the F word in her header. So, I mean, I don't know. It seems sort of like a double standard.
Yeah, well, but I responded. The question that was asked of me was my own vulgarity. I'm a hypocrite because I use vulgarity, and I was firing this person for vulgarity. It's not merely vulgarity, by the way. I never said, "Hey, you're fired because you said a bad word." When did I say that? I never said that.
Does the Babylon Bee?
Will you be fired?
Does the Babylon Bee actively get money from the DeSantis campaign?
No.
Have you got
the screenshots that everybody shares, including I believe Tara, who made a big deal out of this. You guys love to just crop out dates, don't you? The screenshots that are going so viral.
I took what was given to me.
I know.
Yeah,
you don't ask questions. You just share it. I know. So the screenshots that everybody loves to share are from 2021. DeSantis was running for governor and was renting our list, like he rented everybody's list. He spent a hell of a lot more with Daily Wire.
But here's the thing.
It's turned into this big
So
story because
I have a
everybody
question.
cropped off the dates and is suggesting that we're actively being paid by DeSantis to promote DeSantis and tear down Trump. Look at our website yesterday. We made fun of DeSantis twice, just yesterday. Where are you guys sharing those screenshots? Where are those?
So you haven't gotten
I have a
any
That
money
question.
seemed
from
more like
DeSantis?
coddling.
One second, guys. So Seth, I've got a question for you because the issue is this: like, we saw the tweet that he did where he said, "What the f, Christina," and then immediately after that, as a response, you said, like, "Take the Babylon Bee out of your bio." Now, if there was a lead up to the situation or lead up to the event of this event occurring, have you got some kind of paperwork to show that you basically had conversations with him in the past? If he's tweeting regularly and these incidents are happening on a regular basis, have you got like a file on him that he's been doing this? You've had regular conversations, or was this the first time you basically said, "Get that be out your bio, you're fired"? Essentially, you're saying you're fired, Seth.
Oh, my mic was turned off.
Oh, sorry, I'm muting because they were all talking at the same time. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into a lot of the nitty gritty details of a personnel matter. I'm going to talk about what's happened publicly, and that's all I can talk about. And I don't think my lawyers would advise me to talk about anything beyond what's happened publicly. But
Hey guys,
there
I
is
gotta run.
there has been, as I mentioned, it is
If
public
Gavin
record. You can go. I'm still talking.
I
I'm still
have one
talking.
last question for Seth.
Mario, can I
Let
continue to?
Seth finish. Let Seth finish.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Seth finish.
Seth, go ahead, please. You can unmute your mic.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's very public how often he was tweeting. You can go look at the kinds of things that he was saying. I mean, clearly this was not a single tweet that I was objecting to, and I never said I was objecting to a single tweet. So, a lot of people are reading into things and they're making things up and they're sharing stuff that just isn't true. So I'm happy to kind of clear the record on that, and I'll be very forthright in answering questions that I can about what happened publicly, but not, the details of an ongoing personnel matter.
You did say
if he was,
Montero.
excuse me, if I could just ask one thing. If he was a DeSantis supporter, would he have been fired on the spot, very publicly on display the way you did?
Oh, sure.
Nonsense.
Yeah, his behavior is vile. I don't care who he supports. Like I said, I tweeted about this. You guys can see my own Twitter page. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who you support. I don't even know who most of my employees vote for. A lot of them, I'm sure, voted for Trump. I know for a fact a few of them did. Several of them are libertarians and didn't vote in the last election. I don't give them a hard time about that. I don't consider them betraying Trump or betraying DeSantis. I don't care if who he votes for or what he says. If he's out there behaving in a way that is just vile and disgusting and reprehensible with the Babylon Bee in his profile, I'm going to find that objectionable. And I have every right to. I think you would too if he was representing your corporation. I mean, it's ridiculous. Our tagline was your trusted source for Christian news satire. And we have people out there calling, Jenna worked for Trump a long time ago. She represented him. He's calling her fat, thrice divorced and overweight. He'd never touch her. Like that kind of stuff is nasty. I don't want people like that representing me.
I hope other employees will be held to
do any
the
other
same
women
standard.
feel the same way? I mean, do other women here? Like, do you
Jenna
think that
Ellis
that's...
went around calling Carrie Lake a grifter and saying her keynote speech at CPAC was lackluster and cringe. So
Jenna Ellis does not work for me, and I'm not defending Jenna Ellis. She doesn't work for me.
Can I say something?
These are men. These are men bullying women. Okay, and this is what the this is
Can
what
I
Trump
please
does.
chime in here?
One second, guys.
And
Chris, please. I need let's finish this. But Chief, did you have a question? Because I think Chief, you brought up a thread where other employees of Babylon Bee had made similar comments. Is that the case?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So the issue, what I'm saying is a bit of a double standard, is there are employees that were working at your place at the exact same time. They were working at your place. They had Black Blonde Bee. One of them was employed in March 2021 and said, I don't give a F about Ashley Babbitt, talking about that. So I have the receipt here too, and the tweet's still up. You can go look at it for yourself. The tweet itself from Morgan says, I don't give a F about her. She was warned many times not to proceed forward or she would be shot. And that callous language I didn't think was appropriate. And there was also other tweets too where she was saying, I don't think it matters much. Any God that'll the D word someone to hell or jeopardize their salvation for just getting water dunked on them twice and proclaiming their faith is not a God I will follow. So there are tweets out there from employees, and there's more I found too with F languages being used. So because you made the assertion that his behavior was bad in public, right? And if you're making that assertion, then you can apply that same standard to other people who have used curse words or slurs on Twitter frequently when they're employed by you. So that's kind of the point about the double standard. If it's something internal where you can't talk about some performance thing, that's one other whole issue, which you're not going to talk about on a public space for sure. But there are employees for sure that you have and were working at you with you at the time that were saying expletives, slurs, and things of that nature. So that's the point about double standards. And if you're going to hold Gavin to the standard, he's tweeting too much, he's called someone fat or whatever. Okay, then but what about the tweet about Ashley Babbitt and the effing her death, pretty much, and not caring much about that? Because Jantic is a big issue for me. So
Yeah, I
let's go to
saw.
Seth. Seth, go ahead.
Can I reply really quick?
Yeah. No. I want you to reply. Take your time, though. So you can say
Sure.
what.
So, yeah, there have been. I saw a lot of screenshots. Some of the screenshots that were shared were of tweets that current employees of mine tweeted before they became employees of mine and before they were representing the Bee publicly. So that was one thing that I saw going on a lot. Some of the ones that you referenced were tweeted by people who do currently work for the Bee, and were tweeted while they do work for the Bee, and I do find that objectionable. Whether
fire them publicly.
Whether it rises to the level where they need to be let go is a determination that I have to make. But like I said before, I hate to have to repeat myself, but I said before, this was not about the fact that he used a curse word in a tweet. It goes way deeper than that. I mean, this is a pattern of a person who spends his entire day attacking people online with vile and vulgar language, and with the Babylon Bee in his bio, and it goes far above and beyond anything I've seen from other employees of mine. But there is a conversation to be had about how people with the Bee in their bio who work for the Bee represent themselves online, and we need to start having those conversations apparently internally.
So the question, but here's the thing too, because you said there's a long pattern of this. You're kind of making a statement that Gavin's been on Twitter a lot and he's tweeting this stuff out. Like, as an employer, like when you have a person that's doing this and you say there's a problem and it's going on for like a month or something, like shouldn't there be some internal discussion where you at least pull this? I mean, maybe there was, maybe you can't confirm or deny or whatever if it's internal, but shouldn't you be able to pull them aside and say, hey, could you hold back on this, or hey, do this? And instead of saying that this is going on for a long time, if there were no internal discussions about this, or anything like that, I think that it would be better to have those privately. And I understand that he made a tweet that kind of broke the camel's back in your I guess in your eyes about referring to Christina. But still, like, that tweet that was going on in that context, he was being kind of.
Did you hear how he responded when I said I didn't like him tweeting like that?
Yeah, I saw that response.
It's not like he responded in some way. And he actually at one point tweeted that I fired him for showing dignity, and I find that astonishing.
I mean, do you understand where he's coming from, though?
I mean, Seth, like, from his perspective, though, he essentially is getting attacked. He's getting attacked in such a vile manner, actually, basically accusing him of being in cohorts with criminals or whatever it may be. He literally makes that comment in defense. I thought that's quite bland, actually.
I said, he spends his day attacking people while I'm paying him. Instead of working, he's tweeting 250 times plus per day, attacking people with the Babylon Bee in his bio.
So why do you?
It's not even a question.
Why do you?
I should not be employing that. I don't want
himself though. Why didn't you fire him when he called Jenna fat? Why did you wait until he was defending himself against these accusations?
I don't see the relevance of that question. I decided I no longer wanted this person to be an employee of mine, so I fired him.
Can you name the people who are talking about other people who have done stuff like who have? I
want to go back very quickly to the question of. Hold on, I want to go back for a second to this question.
Sorry, Seth. I was trying to mute everybody else. Go ahead. Sorry, Seth. Unmute and then go ahead.
Yeah, I want to go back to this question of would I have done this if he was a DeSantis supporter? And nobody responded to my answer there. I said yes, I would have. The narrative that's out there. What everybody's trying to say is that we're on DeSantis's payroll. We're paid shills for DeSantis. We make jokes at Trump's expense, but not at DeSantis's. That's false. You can check our website. We make jokes at DeSantis' expense. I would have fired him if it was a Trump person that he was attacking from the DeSantis side. I don't care. This was not a political move. It had nothing to do with this person's politics, nothing whatsoever to do with that. It has to do with the fact that I don't like how he's comporting himself and conducting himself in the public eye with the Bee in his bio. and that's my decision. That's my
But Seth,
decision
do you
alone to
think
make.
this would have been maybe more, because it looks like this is a little bit of a PR nightmare right now too. If you could go back, do you wish you would have handled this privately, even if you did fire him on the spot? Do you think that would have been a better way to do it rather than have this firestorm? I'm assuming you didn't see that
I
coming.
actually, this has happened before with other people I've had to let go, and their behavior after they were let go only validated that the decision was right. So, and we came out stronger and better for it on the other end by not having them on the team. So, no.
But Seth, like, do you understand from people's perspective? You basically fired him publicly in a specific context where he's defending himself. Like, I understand if he was attacking someone, or you've got a zero policy, like you're not allowed to say mean tweets.
I didn't look at I don't think the context matters. I think that the pattern of behavior was there, well established, and I'd had enough. I don't think the context matters.
But how does the context not matter? The context is everything. Like, when you do something in a specific context, that's actually what matters. And in this context, he was essentially defending himself. Like, if he was actually being violent in this context, being abusive proactively in this context, I think people would have been less shocked. But
how many? I want you to go back and look at his 250 plus tweets he sent the day before. How many times was he defending himself versus insulting and attacking people with nasty, vile
Yeah, but
language?
you waited to fire him.
You tell me, Seth. You tell me, Seth. Like, when you've gone through his tweets, like,
guys, this is the shifting of the goalposts. It's like 1 minute it's okay, you're working on behalf of DeSantis. Now you're nitpicking like the context and whether he was defending himself. What's the real problem? What's the real focus on one problem and stick to it.
Seth, do you remember saying if you're afraid you might get fired for speaking your mind, the solution is to speak your mind anyway? If no one is willing to take that risk, nothing is going to change. Yes, I realize this is easier said than done. Courage is always more difficult than cowardice. That goes without saying. Do you remember tweeting that?
Yes, I do, and I still believe that that's an awesome tweet. Very brilliant.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. And that's why you've gained so much support, and your being banned and censored by, old Twitter was a big reason why you guys gained so much support.
Do you think that, as based on what I've described,
I'm not done speaking, Seth, just a moment. Also, Trump and his support for you guys, I guess that's why we're all a little bit blindsided by the way you've handled this situation and censored one of your employees who is, an outspoken Trump supporter while defending, a DeSantis campaign manager, and also documentation of you guys accepting money from DeSantis.
I already said this is not about Trump DeSantis. Why are you going back to that?
Well, because you did say if you're afraid you might get fired for speaking your mind, the solution is to speak your mind anyway. And is that not what Gavin did?
No, it's not what Gavin did. Gavin was a jerk all day long while I was paying him to do work for me. He was tweeting. I was paying him to tweet mean things to people while representing the Babylon Bee.
Yeah,
that is not the same as just saying. That is not the same as just speaking your mind.
Himself. That's what you're not owning up to the fact. If somebody,
I would never fire somebody for sharing.
If somebody accused you of something that you didn't do, and they did it publicly on a social media platform that is now dubbed the new public forum. Like, if somebody was accusing you of stuff, are you not going to get defensive and snap back? And to Dr. Gorka's point, like, if this is all stemming from Miles Guo, who's still innocent until proven guilty, then he has every right anyway to defend himself. And it's just sort of like you
should, as a good employer, defend your employee as well. Sorry, Heather, I just want to add that in there. As a good employer, you would defend your employee for being falsely accused as well.
Let Seth answer. Seth, go ahead.
So a couple of things. On the quote again, this idea that I'm contradicting myself because I'm saying that people should be able to speak freely, and you should do it anyway. Even if it means you might pay a price, you might get fired, whatever. I'm talking about expressing yourself. I'm talking about sharing your opinions. I've never have and never will fire someone for expressing an opinion that I don't like. That's not what happened here. So you can try to put it in those terms. You can try to say that, oh well, I'm a DeSantis guy. Those are your words, not mine. I'm a DeSantis guy, and he's a Trump guy, and I don't like that he's going after DeSantis people. He's speaking his mind. I don't want him to be able to do that, so I'm going to censor him. First of all, I didn't take away his voice. He's still tweeting. He's not censored. He's speaking more now than ever. He's tweeting even more than he did while I was paying him to work. So he still has his voice. His voice hasn't been taken away in any way. And so, it's just, It's just ridiculous to suggest that I've censored him. I've simply said, look, I don't want you representing our company anymore. You're a jerk online. You say mean things to people. You use bad language when doing it. And I don't want you representing the B anymore. And I can't emphasize enough that that's the reason that this happened.
So
I mean, let me just ask Tara. Tara, like,
Does anybody here think that that's 50 plus tweets he sent the day before? How many times would it take away his voice? He's still tweeting. He's not censored. He's speaking more now than ever. He's tweeting even more than he did while I was paying him to work. So he still has his voice. His voice hasn't been taken away in any way. And so, it's just ridiculous to suggest that I've censored him. I've simply said, look, I don't want you representing our company anymore. You're a jerk online. You say mean things to people. You use bad language when doing it. And I don't want you representing the B anymore. And I can't emphasize enough that that's the reason that this happened.
So
I mean, let me just ask Tara. Tara, like,
Does anybody here think that that's reasonable? Or no, it's
so
like,
I mean,
is this
Seth,
is this just a cult crowd?
No, Seth. I think it's reasonable.
I'd like to chime in.
I think it's reasonable to essentially have a policy, being a Christian organization or a monotheistic organization, to have nobody who basically is disrespecting people, swearing online. Like, I respect those perspectives and ideologies. Like, that's brilliant. Where I guess what the question comes now, that now you fight this guy for essentially doing that, are you going to be consistent now? So if any one of your employees acts in a similar manner, and I guess the similar manner is going to be because your argument is the volume is the thing that made him get fired, and not the specific.
I would say the spirit much more than the volume, the spirit much more than a specific word. I've sure employees of mine have said shit before. I didn't fire them for that. I said it just now. That's not hypocrisy. The spirit of it much more. Like I said, he spent his whole day while on payroll attacking people in a mean-spirited manner. And I don't like that. So, and no, none of my other employees do that. And if one of them does, we'll have an issue.
So when Morgan tweets out, this is this is her tweet from Jan 6, 2022, and when she was an employee at the time, and she's still there, I believe. I don't give a F about her. She was warned many a time not to proceed forward or she would be shot. Talking about Ashley Babbitt. What's the Babylon Beast take on Jan 6 and all of that? That tweet is, I think, extremely mean-spirited. And I don't want people to be fired for tweets. I don't want that. But if we're playing the same, if it's the volume, okay, then it's the volume. But you're saying it's the spirit of tweets. So there are tweets out there like that one and other ones from that account that are mean-spirited, and they say F off to people. You want anything about me, F off. I've looked through, and the point is, if it's a mean-spirited thing, then okay, we can go through and look through.
Yeah, I don't like that. And employees of the B who have the B in their bio shouldn't be speaking that way. She has the right to her opinion. I think she has the right to her opinion. I don't think that she should be either vulgar or attacking people all day long while they're supposed to be working. An occasional tweet that uses profanity, like in my case where I was quoting someone who used profanity, to try to bring that up as an example of how I'm guilty of the same thing that Gavin was doing is kind of absurd. I don't mind if my employees are in debates with other people. I don't mind if they sarcastically or flippantly troll other people. We do that a lot. It's fun and entertaining. It isn't always done with a mean spirit. But
attacking a woman who died and can't defend herself is pretty disgusting behavior, in my opinion.
Who did that? I'm sorry.
So Morgan. I
have
the receipt here. I'm reading this directly from the thread.
So wait, are you guys saying that I should be saying I should censor and fire all of my employees?
No.
Consistency, Seth.
But what I'm saying.
Can I read a tweet?
Let me just one second, guys, 1 second. Also, I think you've got a question, and then I'm gonna go for it. Also.
Yeah, no. So I think Just Seth, just understand. This is Babylon B is your company, correct? It is a private company that that is yours, and you control who you hire or fire, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I just find it that this whole conversation from people who are all about private business and flipping out. I mean, Seth, as the owner, said this person, because of my opinions, crossed the line that represent negatively my company. As such, that person no longer works, and it's a private company. And if Seth wakes up one day and says, I want to be insulting everybody or not. I mean, it's his company,
Yeah,
and
I
he
think
has
this comes down to, it's a good point. I think this comes down to politics here. It's, if I had fired someone who is a DeSantis supporter for being vulgar towards some Trump campaign person, everybody that's objecting right now would be cheering me on, and everybody here knows it.
So
Not
we're
I.
not asserting that. We're not asserting this. The point is that we're not disputing the fact you're a private company. You're the boss. You can do whatever you want.
You all know it, guys. You all know it.
I'm not disputing the fact that you can go and fire an employee. I'm not. We're not. I don't think anyone here is saying you cannot physically do that. You legally are able to most of the time. There are exceptions, of course, but the point is, if you're saying that there are the mean spirited tweets are what got Gavin fired. What's more mean spirited than saying I don't give an F about Ashley Babbitt, who is in Jan 6, like
Well,
that
can I hate cheat? Let
Can I,
me.
can I,
Are
can I,
you guys are assuming that I've seen all of these tweets that you're bringing up. I don't comb through and
the,
dig through and monitor and police my employees' tweets all
No
of the
one's
time. I don't.
assuming.
I'm
That's
not
I
why
aware
think
of
we're
that stuff.
informing
the
you.
point here is that you have, like, you had to look for tweets from other people. I think this is the point that Seth's making. You have to look for like individual one-off tweets from other people, whereas
Not with
what Seth
Gavin.
was observing was like a consistent, like, daily pattern of behavior, and that was the problem, because like you didn't know about what you were talking about
Yeah, and
just
I'm not
now until you
excusing
looked for
vulgarity
it.
on other people's behalf. Look, if other people are engaging in that kind of rhetoric online with a B in their bio, then I've got a problem with that too.
Max.
So there are some conversations that need to be had there, sure, but not to anywhere near the extent that we had with this person.
Wait. The whole
I mean, let me ask a Trump like Tara. Tara, you obviously most likely believe that the reason why the firing occurred is because Babylon B has some kind of relationship with Ron DeSantis. I mean, am I right to think that that's your feeling? Right. Okay. So
Yes,
what is the
What
100%.
evidence you have of
relationship?
that?
What relationship do we have?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So Tara, what relationship do they have?
In your imagination, what relationship do we have?
Well, there's documentation, and you just admitted live that you've received money from DeSantis. So there's that. Has Trump given you guys any money in the past or ever?
I told Trump that he could one up DeSantis by spending twice as much with us, and I would welcome that.
Well, then maybe you would have kept his supporters on your payroll. But it does seem that there is a railroading going on. There is a definite, support for DeSantis, and if you don't, you're basically going to be, pushed out
Again,
and
that's
gaslit
your
and told that
that's your
you're mean
imagination. That's
tweeting.
your
Seth,
imagination
let me
working
finish
wildly.
speaking, please. But it isn't mean tweeting. I've searched Gavin's tweets. He doesn't do that. You claim that he does all these things. Gavin's not even here to defend himself, which I would appreciate if he was invited.
He was
Or,
invited.
He's
He
been
okay,
was
great.
invited.
invited.
So
He was
it would
invited
be
before.
awesome if he would come in and actually have a platform to defend himself
No, but he
and
was
his good name.
Tara.
Good.
He
Yeah,
was.
I think that he should
He was
come in
invited.
and have the opportunity to
That's
do
his
that.
choice.
So
Yeah, of course. No. So he's.
yes,
Let,
Well,
absolutely.
I'm
So
here, and the accusation is that
yeah.
I'm working with DeSantis. I'm on his payroll. Yes, he rented our lists in 2021. I would love for any candidates to, if he becomes the nominee or Trump becomes the nominee, I hope they spend money with us and reach more people through our audience. We need to defeat Biden in this next election. So I would welcome that money, not just because it's profitable, but because it goes towards an important, impactful cause. It
Seth,
went towards
I
one
welcome you to share. I
when
welcome you to
DeSantis was
share
running
the
as a governor.
tweets that Gavin.
hold on. Can I say one thing? I'm trying.
No. I'm gonna let Seth finish. So I'm not gonna keep interrupting. Go ahead, Seth.
I'm not sure what I was saying. I guess I was speaking to the spend, the budget. It's Governor DeSantis was renting our lists while running his campaign for re-election, and so I don't know why that's a problem when it's with the Babylon Bee. Why is it a problem? Why does that suddenly mean that we're compromised? It doesn't mean, as some have tried to imply, that we make jokes at Trump's expense but not his. It just means that we send emails on his behalf. That's all that means. And
Your
the dates
jokes
were cut
at
off of that.
DeSantis' expense are coddling. You're literally coddling him. They're not even funny. It's like you're feeling sorry for the guy, which I mean, I
Guys,
do too at this point, but it doesn't seem like you're actually, picking at him like you guys do with Trump now, which you didn't before when you had all of his support. So
Does
I don't know.
anyone
It
else
just
here
seems
think
like
it's wild how worked up you all are? We're a satire site. We make jokes on the internet.
Well,
I just want to
I
pipe in. I'll say
right. So
Gavin
why
will
would
have
you?
a
So
job in
why would you do?
Congress if he wants it.
You
We
guys
will
are taking
totally
everything
give him
so
one.
seriously.
now I have a
I just
question,
want to say
We
Seth.
are.
Gavin
You
will have a
fired your
job in
employee.
Congress if he needs it. So we're going to look out for him. I stand with Gavin Wax.
I
Yeah,
just
I have
want
a
to
question, Seth. Wait, can I ask a quick question? Because
all right, make it quick,
Joel
please.
sent me a tweet that Seth had made right after January 6th, where Seth had actually said the MAGA assault on the Capitol and the left's assault on free speech are both bad. Then in this very space, Seth, you also mentioned the word cult and said basically anybody questioning you, are you part of some cult? Do you think MAGA is a cult? And do you believe that J6
It's
was
clearly not what he said.
No, no, it was actually. Well,
That is
let
what
me
he
let
said.
him answer the question. Do you think MAGA is a cult, and do you believe the assault on the Capitol was orchestrated by Trump supporters and not by crooked January 6th police and other people on the inside?
I don't think that MAGA as a whole is a cult. No, I think that there are people in both the DeSantis and Trump camps right now who are really nasty to the other side and are looking for any way that they can to attack them and belittle them. There are people who, if there's anything that you do, it's happening right now in this conversation, anything that you do that could possibly be perceived as support for DeSantis or not support for Trump means you must be attacked. You must be silenced. Everyone must unfollow you. I've been tagged in 1,000 posts today from people saying that they need to unfollow the bee because I'm a disimp. I'm a disimp. Well, that is just people acting in lockstep for political reasons without using their heads and thinking or asking any critical questions. Fortunately, there's a conversation that's being had right now, and I've been given a floor to talk and respond to some of this, which I appreciate. Thank you. But yeah, I think that there's crazies on all sides, both on the left and the right. There are people who act without thinking. There are people who are really nasty and unfair. This is politics. Unfortunately, politics is dirty. I would hope that Christians, people self-professed Christians, wouldn't behave that way and get into all of that with all the personal insults and the nastiness and the name calling. But it happens, and everything is treated as a betrayal. There are a lot of people in the Trump camp who will treat anything as a betrayal. I see a lot of them here listening. Some of them are listed as speakers. And it's not right. It's not right. People are free in this country to support and vote for whoever they want to. And there are people who will hear me say that and think that means I'm a DeSantis supporter. And that's exactly proving my point.
So do you think J6 was a MAGA assault on the Capitol?
Heather, I would like to let me in real quick. Seth probably just directed a comment at me, and I've had nothing but a good relationship with Seth each time
That's true.
we've met. I think you're a solid guy, and I'm going to give you the benefit and the doubt that you're not on DeSantis's payroll. Obviously, you've done business with him in the past, but there's people on DeSantis's team, such as Max Nordau, who make it their job to dox, troll, and harass anybody that is
Wait, hold on.
Trump-supported.
Correction. I don't work for DeSantis.
And
so hold on,
Max,
Alex, I need you to no, AB, I need you to retract what you just said. I don't work for him. I receive no money from him.
Are you going to retract what you said about Gavin that sparked this entire thing, Max? Are you going to retract that? Why should he have to retract what he just said?
What did I say that was incorrect?
Okay, please, Max, can you let the adult speak?
No.
Anyway,
you retract what you said. You just lied about me. No.
So Max,
retract what
so
you
Max,
said. You lied.
So I
you said
sympathize.
You said I work for DeSantis.
I sympathize with Seth to an
extent. Would you like to?
Okay, yeah, we can't have people talking over each other here. I'm gonna let Alex finish. I will let you defend yourself, Max, but I gotta let Alex finish. Go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, Nick. But I do sympathize with Seth with the screenshot of the cropped payment dates. You know, Team DeSantis likes to throw out this screenshot that I was paid $35,000 by Save America PAC in 2022 for projects related to different midterm election races. Had nothing to do with 2024, but Team DeSantis calls me the $35,000 man. In reality, they should be calling me the $3,500 man because after expenses and profit margin, it was only 10% in profit margin off of Save America PAC. So I've never been paid by President Trump to support him. That's a dishonest talking point that comes from the DeSantis camp. And Seth, I know that you're friends with Jenna. I think that you've privately expressed your distaste for some of the comments that I've made towards your friend Jenna to mutual friends of ours, and you ultimately unfollowed me on Twitter because of that. But Jenna has been spreading vicious lies about Trump supporters for many months as well, and she goes unchecked. And so for about a year and a half, DeSantis had this influencer army that was lying about Trump, attacking the MAGA movement. And about 7 months ago, Trump supporters started fighting back, and people don't like it anymore. And so I think Gavin Wax is a good guy. I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt. And Seth, knowing you, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt as well. But it would be a lot more believable that this wasn't related to politics if Team DeSantis hasn't spent the last many months calling people's employers, flagging tweets of random people to their employers, calling clients, including clients of mine, encouraging them to end business relationships with me. And so the way that the Team DeSantis acts is in a very mob-like fashion. And so, it's very disappointing that you're in the middle of this now, that Gavin's in the middle of this now. I think this could all be avoided if Team DeSantis wasn't so nasty.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just respond really quickly. I mean, Alex, you and I have only ever had positive interaction. I don't think we've ever had a negative interaction. So I agree with that. I don't like seeing a lot of this stuff, this constant fighting, the accusations all day long, the political infighting that's going on from one side, lobbing bombs over at the other. If I unfollowed you, it's because I just don't like seeing that all day long. I could have muted you, I guess, but I don't like that. I didn't like it when Gavin was doing it either. I mean, ultimately what it comes down to is, this idea that DeSantis team has this mob mentality, whatever. The Trump side has that too. You guys do that too. You guys, it happens to me. I'm on the receiver. You said you empathize with me. Well, it's happening to me too. It's not right when anybody does it on either side. I don't condone it on either side. Jenna doesn't work for me. I wasn't defending Jenna in any of those comments. I was addressing the behavior of a specific person. So it's the conversation about. Sorry, I got dogs coming out here. The conversation around which side is worse is not interesting to me. I voted for Trump multiple times. The country was better off when he was running it. I'm good friends with people in the Trump family, and so this idea that I view MAGA as a whole as a cult, and I'm on DeSantis's team is just silly. I'm not bought and paid by DeSantis. I don't know why this is such this whole like I said before, the Babylon Bee is a satire site. We make jokes at everyone's expense. This idea that we're really hands off with DeSantis, but we go really hard on Trump. Like Trump is a fun guy to make jokes about, and he's always had a good spirit about it. We've been friends with the Trump family for a long time, and he's loved the Babylon Bee for a long time. So nothing has changed from our end in terms of our stance towards Trump or his family or his team at all. I'm talking about the behavior of specific individuals.
So we give.
There are documents claiming that you get paid.
1 second, Tara. Just to clarify, we have asked Gavin, because someone mentioned it earlier, we have asked him to come on. We actually invited him before we even invited Seth. He said he's going to try and come on, so he has been given the opportunity to give his side, and it's up to him if he wants to turn up or not.
Tara, I don't know that it would be appropriate for he and I to be going head to head in here. So when he gets on, I can get off and he can say his piece.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask really quick in regard to the payments that you received from DeSantis. There are documents that Laura Loomer has shared saying that it was more than just a list rental, that it was that you were being paid for consulting and speech/joke writing. Can you confirm or deny that?
You're talking about Laura Loomer? Is that what you said?
I'm talking about, more importantly, I'm talking about the payments that were received from Ron DeSantis. You claim it was just for list rentals, but she claims that you told her via text message, and there's documentation here that it was more than that. It was also payment from DeSantis's PAC for consulting and speech/joke writing.
Yeah, well, for one thing, I don't think you should listen to anything that Laura Loomer says. But
so can you confirm or deny if that's true, or are you going to pass?
The payments that everybody is sharing, those are from 2021, and they're list rental payments. Everybody cropped off the dates and is trying to sell a narrative, and we are not being paid by DeSantis.
Can I try bringing it back because there was
Dodge the question.
well, come on, can I try?
Yeah. So we'll go. Yeah. Go ahead, and then I'm going to go to all sorts after that. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because the recall points that were being made before about what we were saying and insinuating. You said before it's not about the volume. You said it's about the spirit of things, and then later on you said you had a pattern of doing it. So like I'm kind of unclear if it's like a pattern or not because you've said he was tweeting on your you're paying him to tweet mean things, and then you said before that it's just the spirit of the tweets were the issue that was going on. Where did you poll Messiah at any point before this and say, could you lay off the mean spirited tweets? And I guess the other questions too. It's more so about Jan 6 because there are tweets from that one tweet talking about that the person doesn't give an F about Ashley Babbitt being shot. And that I think is the most mean spirited thing ever. And I'm not saying that you have any knowledge of all the tweets your employees do. I'm not saying that you have you go through every single employee's Twitter and you read every single reply and quote tweet and like that they do. But now that you're aware of it, what do you think that's like mean spirited? And what are your thoughts about that?
I think he left as
I
soon
think
as
he
Laura
left.
entered the
Yeah,
chat.
he left
I think
as
Laura
soon as
Loomer has a tendency to scare
he
people.
left as soon as I entered the chat because that's what happens when you talk shit and then everybody blows my phone up. So if you're gonna talk shit about me in a Twitter space, you better be able to, like have the balls to stay on so I can confront you head on. You know what I'm gonna do tonight when I get home because I'm out right now? I'm gonna post all of the text messages that I have from Seth Dillon where he was blowing me up, acting like such a nice Christian boy. By the way, why is he pretending to be Christian when he's Jewish? I have all the screenshots of him saying that he's an Ashkenazi Jew, yet he pretends like Babylon B is a Christian site.
Laura,
So
we're
I'm going
not.
to.
We are not going to go into that. We are not going
Why
to go into
not?
that part. I brought
He's a
you up because
liar.
you
Why
were
not?
attacked.
He's a liar. He's
You
pretending to be a
you were.
Christian and he has posts that he says he's Jewish. It's Babylon Be a Christian site, like they tell all their donors, like a satirical Christian site. Why is he LARPing? Just like he pretends that he's so pro free speech and that everybody should have the right to, say what they want to say, but then he's going to fire somebody for criticizing DeSantis. He lost his shit. I was in California at the time when I broke the story about him receiving money from DeSantis. And I woke up and I had text messages at 3:00 in the morning, like, fuck you. You're not a fucking journalist. You fucking
Yeah, but
bitch.
Laura, let me ask you real quick. So we do have Seth Dillon back real quick, and I will
Seth
let you
is back.
address your concerns here. I would rather,
Well, I'm glad.
but I do want to ask you, like, is it?
I'm glad that he finally grew a pair of balls to come back and face me head on. Because if
We're
he's going to talk
I'm.
about me directly, then he should face me
We're
Sorry,
not going
directly.
to do the
Laura.
ad hominem attacks.
I've
We're
just
not. We're not.
added Seth back, so
We're not going to do the ad hominem attacks. But
let's give Seth a chance to defend himself because he was
yep.
a few. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, sorry guys, I have a pretty bad connection, and I'm about to be heading into a dinner, so I can't stay much longer. But I wasn't bringing up Laura Loomer. Someone asked me about her, and I don't know what I missed.
You said that nobody should listen to anything I
You said
said.
no one should listen to anything Laura Loomer said.
I mean, it looks like
But we're not going to do ad.
President Trump. It looks like President Trump listened to what I
Well,
said.
I think
Right?
Laura,
Because he even posted the receipts that I exposed, right? It looks like President
what
Trump listened.
was
Meanwhile,
that
you were
after?
trying to stab him in the back when you were having dinner with him while not disclosing the fact that you were on DeSantis's payroll. I mean, why don't you talk about that?
Let's
Was
respond. Go ahead.
that before or after he unhired you?
Oh wow!
I don't know. I'm not sure what
I
I'm
thought
not
we
sure
were
what
going to do ad hominem attacks.
I'm not
So
sure what I'm responding to. I was this
President Trump never unhired me. He hired me in his
this
office, and then disloyal leakers and staffers decided to run to the New York Times to plant a hit piece about me. So I
I
don't
think
know, like what? Like you're trying to like celebrate cancel culture and hit pieces by Maggie Haberman. Is that what you want to talk about, Seth? Because as far as I know, like I'm incredibly loyal and effective in my support for President Trump, and I think I'm the person who he ended up getting those expenditure reports from that show that you received over $21,000 from DeSantis. And then you photographed yourself at Mar-a-Lago with President Trump
yeah.
in an effort to make it seem like you're a Trump supporter. And then what? You're just not going to tell President Trump in his own home that you're working for DeSantis? So yeah, make fun of me all you want, but I sleep well at night knowing that at least I have my integrity and my loyalty.
I mean, Seth, go ahead, respond.
I'm not sure what there is to respond to. I mean, Laura's one of those. Laura's one of the people that I was talking about before, where all day long, all she does is talk about how she's loyal Loomer, she's loyal to Trump, she attacks anybody that she thinks is not in Trump's camp. She's hostile and she's nasty, and I don't follow her for the same reason I don't follow some other people who do the same thing.
I'm not hostile and nasty. I'm just
So
factual and truthful, and you
Laura,
can't take
one second, guys. I just want to ask something to Seth, which you mentioned, and I do think he needs a chance to respond to it. One of the things Laura said when you dropped was that essentially you are not a Christian. You're basically using it as a grift to be able to get donations. You're actually Jewish, and so this is a lot of it's a scam. So I think you do need a chance to respond, because this is a major space, like hundreds of thousands of people, maybe 400,000.
I think that says a lot more about her than me. On my mother's side, my mother's Ashkenazi Jewish. I'm like 60-something% Ashkenazi. So by blood, I'm Jewish. According to Jewish people, I'm Jewish. But I'm a Christian. I believe that Jesus Christ came and died for our sins and rose from the dead and paid the price for them that we can't pay ourselves. And for that reason, I have saving faith in Jesus Christ as my savior. I don't know why she would attack my religion. I don't know why that's relevant to anything.
I'm not attacking your religion. I'm just reading your direct tweets from Twitter. I just said it's really interesting how he says he's a Christian, but I'm looking at your tweets right now. Like, I just wanted you to clarify. I mean, if you converted, then that's your choice. I have no criticism for that.
What does this have to do with Gavin and the topic of this forum? Who's running the forum?
No, I was just pointing it out.
What did my tweets say that's inconsistent with my Christianity? I said I'm Jewish. I mean, I'm Jesus was Jewish. The Apostle Paul, who wrote half the New Testament, was Jewish.
Are you a messianic?
This is really sleazy.
It's not relevant. This look. The only reason I brought it up was just to give Seth a chance, because it would have made his organization look really bad, and so he had a chance to basically correct.
Is it bad if I'm Jewish?
No, that's not bad.
I'm Jewish. I don't have a problem with it. I'm Jewish
she's
myself.
Jewish as well.
I just think it's interesting.
She made the accusation that you were grifting, you see. So
that's awful. What a sleazy thing. God.
Babylon B is constantly talking about how it's a Christian site, and you don't use profanity. And one of the things that people were
so a Jew can't work there. Are you saying a Jew can't work at a Christian company?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
What are you
saying? What are you?
Gavin Wax is Jewish, from what I understand. So my point is I just think that Babylon B presents itself in a way that really isn't consistent with like the brand you guys are trying to sell. Like, whether
and how is that? How do we present ourselves?
Okay, so today, so you said in response to Gavin, right? You said, that's really not acceptable. You can take the B out of your account now. And then I'll just read you one of your other tweets, since I'll pull it up for you, and you can see how inconsistent this is. You constantly talked about censorship and the woke virus and how people shouldn't be banned. You said in a tweet posted on August.
Yeah, we already went over this. We went over this before you joined.
If you're afraid you might get fired for speaking your mind, the solution is to speak your mind anyway. If no one is willing to take that risk, nothing is going to change.
Yes, and I don't know what that has to do with my Jewish heritage or my Christian faith or the firing of Gavin, who was fired for his conduct.
I'm not criticizing you for being Jewish. I'm Jewish myself. So that's you're trying to play victim card right now, when I simply pointed out the fact that you said you're a Christian, but then I read your post that said you're Jewish. So I was just wondering which one was it?
Laura, can I ask you a
guys,
question?
What's going on? Is anyone else confused?
Yeah. So I actually want to ask a question. Let me ask this question to.
Go ahead. Okay, so the issue is this. It's irrelevant. The only reason I brought it to Seth was just so you had a chance to clarify. One second.
Yeah, we really don't need to talk about it more. I just simply
that's not relevant. Laura, the bit. One second, Laura. We've covered some of those texts you said. So if you've got something different to essentially ask in terms of,
I don't have anything else to
just so she can hear my response to the inconsistency. Laura, let me respond.
I came on to defend myself because people said that you shouldn't talk. You shouldn't listen to anything that Laura says. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm the one that broke the story about your expenditure reports. So I broke the story in February. So this isn't really new information. Like I said, there are several news publications that picked up the fact that, I reported on it, and then President Trump even posted it on Truth Social. So I think that I have a right to comment on this, since you were talking about me and said that people shouldn't take anything that I said seriously. I'm the one that dug up those expenditure reports.
Okay, let me respond. Let me respond to a couple of things really quick. So the inconsistency was already dealt with. This is not an issue where someone gave an opinion and I didn't like their opinion, so I fired them. You know, this is an issue of a repeated pattern of conduct that, you know, I don't want somebody who is behaving that way representing my company with our name in their bio. I don't know what that has to do with my Jewishness or my Christianness or whatever point was trying to be made there, but that's
It has
ridiculous.
nothing
As
to
far as
it has
DeSantis
nothing
goes,
to do with
okay,
that. You're
let me
trying to
finish.
you're
Let me
trying to
finish.
make something out of
Let me
nothing.
finish.
I
Let
just
him
asked
finish,
you to
Laura.
Let me
clarify.
finish.
Laura, you need to let him finish because then you both talking
Yeah,
over each other.
you're
So
trying to
let him
find
finish and then I'll go to Laura.
inconsistency where there is none. There's such a thing as a Jewish Christian. Okay, deal with it. Now the other thing, this issue with DeSantis, I was recently at I was asked to speak at a press conference for DeSantis. He was announcing his digital bill of rights, and he asked me to speak about our experience with censorship, and I gladly did that. I'm happy to coordinate with my governor. I think he's a great governor. I like DeSantis a lot. I think he does a great job here in Florida. I think that most of the attacks that are lobbed at him from Trump's side are off base. And I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's done a great job here. So I've been proud to work with him in whatever capacity I've been able to. It's same with Trump. When Trump invited me to Mar-a-Lago, I was honored. It was one of the greatest nights of my life getting to go there and have dinner with him. That was so unbelievably cool. And I proudly posted a picture of it. And I proudly posted that I was with DeSantis. I'm not ashamed to be affiliated with either of them. And I think it's insane that everybody acts like you're betraying one or the other of them by liking either or the other one of them. It's just absolute madness. You guys are crazy. And I'll
The
make fun of you on the Babylon Bee for it.
the inconsistency though, I was trying. You laughed before I was able to ask the or finish the question. The issue goes before you said that it was not a volume issue of tweets, but because someone was mean spirited, and now you're saying it was because of the volume, but you referred to in the past of a pattern of it. So you said before that's not the volume, but now you're saying it was the pattern for it. And the other point also was they were talking about mean spirited things. No one here is claiming that you read every single employee tweet and every single employee reply and every single employee retweet and quote tweet or whatever they do. We're not asserting that, but what we're talking about though is when we have examples of this that we bring up and show you, that's kind of how we want you to respond because we're not
Guys,
going to.
okay, nobody here cares whether I'm consistent in enforcing our employee rule book. What you guys care about is whether or not somebody you can find an excuse to smear somebody as pro DeSantis and tear them down.
I
And that's ultimately why everyone's up in a frenzy about this. It's why you've got all these people who are like, I'm with Gavin, I'm with Gavin. This was a personnel matter. I made the right call. I don't regret that I did it. I'd do it again. And it was about behavior. It was a recurring pattern of behavior that I didn't like associated with our brand, and that's my decision to make. And that's the end of the conversation. Like, you guys can have your feelings about it if you want to. We're a satire site. We're going to make fun of everybody. We're going to continue to poke fun at DeSantis. We're going to continue to poke fun at Trump. If any of them want to pay us for list rentals, great, we'll take it. I'll take twice as much from Trump as I took from
But
DeSantis.
it's not a list rental, Seth. Like you even told me in the text message that you're a consultant for DeSantis. I have those text messages. You said you could consider us speechwriters for DeSantis. We help him find funny angles. So you're trying to tell people that this is about list rentals when you actually said that you are a speechwriter for him. So what is it? Are you a speechwriter or are they list
Yeah,
rentals?
so
Like
we had a
it's
we
not
had
what
a
you told
we had a
me.
non-confidentiality agreement with and I had an off the record conversation with you that you leaked,
It
where
wasn't. It actually was never off the record. I have the entire
it
text
was. I
thread, and
asked
never
if you were
once did I
speaking to
say
me as a
off the
journalist or
record.
not. So I was trying to
Yeah,
determine
and
if
I
we were
said
on the
yes.
record or
I
not.
said
You did
yes.
not.
I said yes. It's in the text, but whatever. Everybody's going to see the truth when I post them later. It's fine. So go on.
You you better not post our text, Laura. That's unbelievable.
I can post them. Being
I am
honest.
being honest. I think it's wrong for you to have legalist or as a friend who had questions.
I
I asked
told
you that
you as a
question.
journalist, we're not friends. We're
Can
not
I say
friends.
I
We've
think
never
it's
like
really
hung out.
awesome though that Seth is at least up here taking these Q&As. I give him credit
Yep.
for that. You should give your boy Ron some notes because I heard he likes to read from scripts.
No, no. So
Transparency is good. I don't think that anybody should. I've gotten plenty of text messages from people.
But it's more so about if we have other more serious examples of things we look to and it's about Jan 6, about Ashley Babbitt and that language. That in itself is a bigger issue than some, tweet from someone saying "f off," who's like
Again, I don't think most of the people here are concerned with whether or not I'm being consistent with myself. I mean, really, you guys ever spent your whole day talking about and when you're worried about whether I'm consistent with myself?
No, but Seth, just to explain that, because essentially what happens is when people think that maybe you have got some kind of biases for DeSantis or Trump,
Yeah,
then
that's what
people
it's
look for
about.
your
Exactly.
actions.
That's what it's
Yeah,
about.
of course it is, of course it is, of course it is. And so
That's what I
what
keep
people
saying.
then do is, yeah. And so, but then, in order to find out if you've got that bias, then what people do is look at your actions in other contexts. So if your actions in other contexts are not consistent, then it just adds to the argument that essentially this is a pro-DeSantis, anti-Trump action. Do you get what I mean? So that's what the argument is. So essentially, that's why people are trying to understand
Yeah,
why
and
this specific.
I don't know why
Yeah.
we need to have a more detailed discussion other than me saying no, it wasn't. It's not about DeSantis. It's not about Trump. If he had been attacking Trump people from a DeSantis perspective, it would have been the same outcome. How is that not an answer that is satisfactory to anybody here?
But Seth, so
Yeah,
can I
so
ask you a question though on that? Like, so are you, because I think just trying going a little bit earlier with this whole, I think because speak your mind, woke virus, etc. One, do you feel like you kind of encourage your employees, and specifically this Gavin example, that might have been more aggressive because of kind of that culture that you might have permitted? And then two, looking in the future, then what policies as the owner of Babylon Bee are you going to put in place to ensure that something like this doesn't happen and people accuse you of this of being a political attack rather than trying to maintain at least a Babylon Bee image and some sort of ethical standard?
Well, I think we have ethical standards. I think that's what this was about in the first place. I was enforcing ethical standards. As far as what we'll do in the future, I do think that we need, I don't want any of my people to feel muzzled in any way that they can't express themselves. But I do think that there should be conduct that they adhere to if they're going to have the Bee's name in their bio and they're going to be publicly listed as working for us. And there's certain conduct standards they should adhere to. We are a Christian organization, regardless of whatever Laura Loomer might say. We are, and that matters to us. So, and I think we have a right for that to matter to us. And so, the suggestion that there are people who work for us now or have worked for us in the past who have said bad things. Sure, I've said bad things. I've said things that I regret. This was not a one-off situation though, and so it was dealt with in a way that I think was necessary. So you can feel about that however you want to. It has nothing to do with Trump or DeSantis, and that's what all this has been turned into. It's been turned into a, we're DeSimps, we're on their payroll, and that's what everybody is trying to say. It has whatever. It doesn't matter if a campaign pays you for a specific task or a specific email rental or whatever it is. That doesn't mean that you're in their pocket and you're going to do what they say. Nobody from DeSantis' team has ever given me an order or implied such or ever will give me an order that I will comply with because I'm on their payroll. First of all, we're not on their payroll at all for anything. And if any campaign were paying us for any services or list rentals, it would not mean that they have control of us. It simply means that we provide the services that they're paying for. And that never, ever, ever includes us writing jokes that they want us to write at someone else's expense on our website. We would never write satire because someone is behind the scenes paying us to write satirical jokes at someone else's expense. Our writers write whatever they think is funny. And you guys can make up whatever fantastical stories in your minds you want to about that. We are a comedy site. We're going to make fun of everybody. You all take this way too seriously. You're all at each other's throats way too much. Chill out a little bit. And this idea, it all comes back to, was this because of DeSantis, whatever. I mean, guys, if Gavin had been a hardcore DeSantis supporter and I was publicly out there saying I was voting for DeSantis, I wouldn't treat him any differently than I would anybody else. If I was hardcore out there saying I'm voting for Trump and DeSantis is Hitler, like everybody says, or David Duke or whatever, it would still be the same outcome. It's about behavior. It has nothing to do with the politics. And so I don't know. Everybody's making this into a big thing. This was a personnel matter. That's it. And you can try to say that the B is in DeSantis's pocket and make this stuff up. I've refuted it. I explicitly deny it. And so, there will be a time down the road, I'm sure, when campaigns will spend money with us but it doesn't mean that we do what they say when it comes to the type of content that we produce. It doesn't even mean that we're voting for them. I have people on my team who won't vote for either of the candidates that we're talking about, and that's fine. And I would like to know from the people here who are so worked up about the possibility that we might be in DeSantis's pocket. Therefore, we have to be destroyed, and everyone should unfollow us. And I'm done with the Babylon Bee. Why do you guys think it's not okay for someone to support DeSantis? Why is that not okay? Is this not a free country? You guys are trying to come down on me for censorship, but you're trying to coerce everybody to be in lockstep with you and your preferred candidate?
You can
Come
support
on.
whoever you want, but
They're not.
it's
Well,
Seth,
well
dishonest
they're
for
said.
you to. It's
Seth, they're not mad at
dishonest.
Well,
Thank
we
you.
you.
They're
weren't
not mad at
saying
you
to
for supporting
unfollow the
DeSantis. They're
tweet
mad at you
because
for
you
not
have.
supporting Trump.
Yeah, we weren't saying that
It's
just
just
They're, like
dishonest to
Seth,
say
Everybody,
that you're not
like
on the payroll.
everybody who's piling on is saying that.
No.
You can find a
they're yeah.
trillion tweets right now. We were trending today because people were saying that.
Yeah, and while we're at it, like Loomer, like you accused Casey DeSantis of faking her cancer, so like
Max,
you're not a
hey,
reliable
hey,
source, and I'd
hey,
really,
Max, you just accused me of being an international heroin dealer, you fucking
no, I
moron.
didn't, no, I
Yes, you
didn't.
did. It's
I
on your
said you
Twitter
worked.
feed.
No, I said you
Yes,
were an
you just.
unregistered foreign agent.
Guys, look, this is not like some personal beef. The main reason is we brought people up to ask questions specifically about Seth. I believe he's answered
Yeah,
all.
I think I've
Yeah,
answered a lot of them, guys.
yeah.
I
I
got to
appreciate you
wrap up
coming
because
on.
my family's waiting for me to join them for dinner. I want to be transparent with you guys. This is politics is messy, but I hope we can all agree that we love our country and we love our freedom. I'm running my own business the way that I think that I should. Everyone should respect my right to not just run my business the way that I should, but to be able to vote for whatever candidate I want to. And it doesn't mean by saying that I'm going to vote for DeSantis, and a lot of people will interpret it that way. I'm just saying people are free in this country to do what they want, and there's so many people in this space right now, and so many people on Twitter who don't want anyone to be free to vote for someone else. They want to coerce them and pressure them and penalize them if they so much as hint that they might be supporting somebody else. And like it's a big scandal that we've had any relationship with DeSantis. He's my governor. I love him. I've been to the governor's mansion. I've been to events that he's been at. I've been to dinners he's been at. I've sat at tables next to him, fundraising tables. I spent tens of thousands of dollars supporting his campaign. I'm not ashamed of any of that. You're not going to get me to apologize for any of that. And I've supported Trump
Sorry, Seth, continue.
and I've supported Trump all the way through. So, it's just you guys this false dichotomy that you have to be in one camp or the other, and you're the enemy if you're not. I think everybody needs to grow up, be more mature, especially be more spiritually mature, be kinder to other people, and we'll all be better for it. Got to run, guys. Thank you.
So Seth, I just
Hey,
want to
thanks
thank
for
you for
coming,
coming.
Seth.
We
I
do
want to say real
appreciate
quick.
it, and I think we need to give you a lot of credit because essentially you have come on here, you've answered a number of questions, and much of them have been emotive. Some of them have even been personal. You've answered every single question, so I do appreciate it. And look, there's going to be like maybe 400,000 or 500,000 people listening who will listen to this after playback as well. So I think you should be commended, and more people should do the same thing that you've done. So I do appreciate. I'll give you credit for being full on and answering all
100%.
questions. I'm going to pass it over to Nick, though. Nick, go ahead. I think you wanna move on.
Yep, I'll say the same thing. Thank you, Seth. Really appreciate you coming here. I have a lot of respect for that fact. I want to shift topics just a little bit here. We'll pivot. We have Mayor Rudy Giuliani on stage as well. He was the former mayor of New York during 9/11. And I want to ask, so what are you thinking right now? I know you've seen it. It's the great Twitter war among Republicans. DeSantis versus Trump. What are your overall thoughts on that? He might actually not be here. He's been waiting for a while. So I'll text him and try to get him back on. But Dr. Gorka, everything you just heard right now about the Babylon Bee, everything, all the questions for Seth, his responses. What are your thoughts?
Hey. I'll be quick because I'm just picking up my daughter at the airport. I commend Seth. It's America. It's a private company. Even if he's pro DeSantis, so what? That's his choice. And I have to agree with Suleiman as well that this is, a level of transparency you wouldn't get from most CEOs. So I commend him. Maybe there's more to the story, but Good for him for coming on the space. And look, at the end of the day, you know me. I'm President Trump's former deputy assistant. I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to rally for him. I'll work for him if he wants me to work for him again. But at the end of the day, this is America. So let's just what did Seth say? Just chill a little. Just dial it back a bit. I have serious problems with DeSantis. I think he's got an honor deficit. But at the end of the day, it's America. And if Seth wants to do that, he gets to do that.
Can I respond real quick?
Yeah, go ahead,
Sure,
Heather.
sure, go
I
ahead.
just think, like, because everyone knows, like, I'm obviously a Trump supporter. I don't care if people support DeSantis. I don't even care if people support Democrats. Like, I'm, like, American through and through. You vote for whoever you want. I think it's sort of unfair for him to be like, oh, everyone needs to chill, because in reality, nobody was boycotting the Babylon Bee or thinking about unfollowing them because they supported DeSantis before. Like, we already knew they were sort of leaning more towards DeSantis, but we also followed him. People are talking about unfollowing him specifically because they believe he targeted one of his employees for his beliefs. So it's almost like he's trying to deflect and be like, oh no, don't boycott Babylon Bee because of because you think we're DeSantis. It's like, no, that's not why people are boycotting. People are talking about boycotting because they think you're punishing people for their beliefs. So I just wanted to set the record a little straight there. I do give him so much credit, though, for being up here taking those questions. Some people in my DMs say he just doesn't want to get Bud Lighted and is doing some damage control. I don't know. Either way, I give him credit. I don't think we'd see that sort of live Q&A hot seat type stuff from DeSantis. So maybe he can pass the word along and give him a few notes.
I will say though, because points are being made in that, I do, respect that he did have the guts to, not be scripted and, appear on a space and talk with all of us. But the issue still kind of stands though, in terms of, more about questions like how many times did he talk to Gavin about this? He said it was a pattern, and if this will be if any more enforcement will be happening with other employees who've tweeted out things like that they don't give an F about Ashley Babbitt's death and other some other things that were a bit more even worse than that too. So it's a matter of whether that happens or not. But I do commend him for standing up in the space. But those questions are still a bit unanswered. But maybe have Gavin up here. That'd be cool. Did you guys message him already? I can try messaging.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no,
sure.
we have
Also,
several times.
I
We're
would
still
like
trying.
to just read the post, by the way, just because there was a lot of deflecting in his comments when I was bringing up all of those different points. But this is the post that President Trump posted on Truth Social. He said, "Why is Ron DeSanctimonious paying the Babylon Bee, a non-entity, $5,000 a month? So far, $21,500 if he's not running for president. Just because his poll numbers are tanking, probably because of his desire to cut Social Security and Medicare, doesn't allow him to campaign without an announcement. You don't spend that much money on the Babylon Bee if you're running for governor. In fact, you don't spend that much money on the Babylon Bee if you're running for anything." So, I think it's very disingenuous to say, oh well, we're not doing anything other than list rentals for any candidate. I have an email list, okay? And I'll just tell you right now, they don't come in payments of $21,000. And I've rented my list to lots of people, okay? Lots of members of Congress, lots of conservative pundits, and there's never a singular list rental payment for $21,000. That's not how it works. And like I said, I have the text messages where he admits to me, and you're going to see for yourself when they've already been posted. They were posted when I broke the story in February, that he says you could consider us speech writing consultants for DeSantis. We write speeches for him. So how are you a satire site if you're writing speeches for a politician who's running a shadow campaign against President Trump? Like, let's not be naive. So, he says we're friends. He says we're friends. Like, we're not friends. Like, I know a lot of people in conservative media where that means we're an acquaintance. It doesn't mean we're friends that hang out together and we don't have brunch and do things that friends do together. Just because I know who you are and I have your number in my phone doesn't mean I consider you to be a friend.
Yeah. So I wanted to go ahead and I brought up GOP Josh here, who has, publicly, very publicly over the past several days been sparring with I believe, one of DeSantis' senior advisors. And this kind of ties in with the Babylon Bee situation, because this war has been, it gets more intense every day. I want your overall opinion on this, how it's going, and, your encounter with the DeSantis campaign.
Well, thank you for having me. Can you hear me all right? I've never done a space before. Not trans moving. All
Yes,
right.
sir. Go ahead.
Very cool. So thank you for having me. To introduce myself, my name is GOP Josh. I host a podcast. I'm 16 years old, not on a payroll. I am just an activist for President Trump. I support his campaign. And I made a tweet to Christina Pushaw about her operations that she's had done, that sort of thing going on with her face, and she didn't like it. She kind of responded. She asked what my mom thinks about what I'm doing on Twitter, and I responded asking if her boss, Ron DeSantis, knows about her foreign agent connections and the way she worked for the president of Georgia and Ukrainian officials and her loyalty to Ukraine. And I kind of think I hope I'm not. I feel like I'm part of the reason.
Oh,
Go ahead.
hold on. Before you keep going on that, Josh, let me ask you what do you mean by that? You're talking about her connections to Ukraine. Did you call her a foreign national?
I said national
Was
instead
that
of agent.
a
I
little
was walking and typing, and I put the wrong word. I don't think it's that major of a deal. Everyone understood the point of the tweet. Everyone understood what I was saying, and everyone understood the context behind it. And I provided the photo of her with the big Ukraine banner saying "Stand with Ukraine" or whatever, or "Never give up." I think it said, with her boss's face on it. And she responded back with photos from 2012 of her boss with Donald Trump when they were doing a big thing with Trump Tower. And I don't think the connections between business and actually working for the guy are the same. That's just my opinion there. But that was the whole Ukraine thing. And I said national instead of agent, and I can't edit replies, obviously. And I said the wrong word, and I tweeted it out, and it was a little late once I realized. But, that's a big thing there. But I feel like I hope I'm not the reason Gavin got fired from the Babylon Bee, but obviously doesn't seem like a great situation there, period. But, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Christina Pushaw, I kind of got her in the news. I don't think she's in there much anyways, but, I love that. I get the Google alert for my name. I think most people in here probably do. And it just popped up. Christina Pushaw gets argument with 16-year-old. And I'm like, all right, very cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that regard. But thank you for having me up and allow me to speak.
And just guys, before we go on to somebody, any comments you've got, put them on the bottom right. Do you think that Seth gave a good enough answer for in terms of the questions that he received and the answers he gave, or do you think that he did not cover the situation well enough and there was deflection? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So bottom right hand side, put the comments in. Also, if you subscribe to Mario, as you can see, it's been a mammoth now, 4 or 5 spaces in a row. And we will be doing some exclusive subscriber only spaces. So go to Mario's page, hit the subscribe button. It's only $1, which all that money, as far as I know, is going to be donated to charity. So it's more about getting the subscribers and having a subscriber only exclusive space with exclusive guests. So Alex, you got your hand up. I'd like to hear your thoughts before we can get Mayor Giuliani back on.
Yep. He's trying to connect. He wasn't able to connect, so he's I'm working with him in the background. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I'd like to applaud GOP Josh for how he's handled all of this. He's 16 years old, and he's taken some heat from some really bizarre people. And what I was trying to say earlier with Seth is that the DeSantis team had a meeting in January of 2022 with a bunch of these different conservative influencers in the governor's mansion. And every single one of those conservative influencers since then has regurgitated anti-Trump talking points, talked about why it's time to do this or do that. And they're very nasty for about a year and a half towards Trump. And Trump supporters, including myself, didn't start pushing back on their lies until about 7 months ago. And it became incredibly testy, incredibly toxic. And the DeSantis people are some of the most vicious and nasty people we've ever dealt with. So today, I think GOP Josh struck a nerve with the foreign agent angle, because they went on this tangent about all of these foreign connections to Trump's allies. And they included a picture of me from when I was 20 years old, shaking hands with some random guy in the Trump hotel lobby. Keep in mind, 20 years old. And John Cardillo, who is on the payroll of Team DeSantis, he said, quote, Alex Bruzewicz worked for a heroin trafficker, and Christina Pusha engaged with that, and Team DeSantis engaged with that, and Pedro Gonzalez engaged with it. They're pushing this lie that because I took a picture with somebody, I am involved in some international drug rip. And that's the type of crap that these people have been doing for many months. And they will attack literally anybody if they don't bow down and shut their mouths if they support President Trump.
And they lie,
they're
and they
nasty
lie.
people.
And they lie. So going off of what Alex just said, because I think it's very important for the sake of transparency, Seth on this space said that the last payment that he received from Ron DeSantis was for list rentals in 2021. That's a lie. So according to receipts that I have, discovered, and I'll be writing an article about this and posting this, the Ron DeSantis PAC changed its name recently to the Empowered Parents PAC. And according to financial expenditure reports on the FEC, Seth Dillon received a $40,000 payment from the Empowered Parents PAC, which is basically the Friends of Ron DeSantis PAC. They just changed their name to hide the fact that it's DeSantis, because I'm sure if we go through the FEC, we'll see other payments like this to other influencers. And the payment was on October 13th, 2022, which was less than a month before the election for Ron DeSantis's gubernatorial race. So at that time, he already knew that he was running for president because, as has been reported, and as I know from my own conversations with donors who are on the DeSantis finance team, discussions to run Ron DeSantis for president have been taking place since 2021. In fact, I know a donor in Palm Beach who was personally approached to join his finance team for his 2024 run in 2021. So I just think that if you're going to, sweet talk people and say that, oh, well, we're a satire site and, we're not in the pockets of any politician. Well, what is he getting paid $40,000 for from the DeSantis PAC a month before his gubernatorial election, knowing, because like I said, on election night, they were chanting 2 more years. So if you watch the videos, his supporters were in the room chanting 2 more years, as in, run for president in 2024. That's what it means when you read between the lines. So we just have to be honest here. Why did Ron DeSantis's PAC change its name to the Empowered Parents PAC? Why are they taking the name DeSantis out? You change a name of something when you're trying to conceal who that is tied to. And, for some people, like maybe, I don't know, like maybe they're gullible, maybe they're going to believe this stuff, but I don't. Like, I'm not going to sit here and, be talked down to because I'm a lot smarter than that. And I think that all of you are a lot smarter than that, and you deserve the facts and you deserve the truth. So I have these expenditure reports. There are many news reports that have been published for all of you to see so that you can see yourself here, it was even reported by Politico this month. Friends of Ron DeSantis is no more. So they did it this month. This month, on the 18th of May, is when they changed the name of the Friends of Ron DeSantis PAC to the Empowered Parents PAC. And I guarantee you it's because if you type in Empowered Parents PAC, because that's now what it reflects in the FEC, you'll see that a ton of these social media influencers received very large payments from the Ron DeSantis PAC. So he wasn't honest, because if we're going to play back the recording of the space later, he said the last payment was 2021. The last payment was October of 2022.
So I have sent an invite to Ashley St. Clair as well, because I believe someone mentioned her text messages as well, and they felt like hers were as bad as, if not worse than, Max's. So yeah, we are inviting every single person who was involved in the situation just to give them an opportunity to express things from their perspective.
That's fine. Can you actually acknowledge what I just said? Because, I mean, you said that you care about transparency, but then, he literally just lied in your entire space. He said that the last payment was 2021. So it's nice that you want to change the subject and all, but can we actually, engage with what I just said?
No, I mean, I wasn't trying to engage the subject. I just invited her while you were talking. But essentially, yeah, if you can post that, then we'll put it on the nest and the people can actually see it when they see the space as well.
Can I send it? Can I send it to you? And then,
you can send it to me and I'll post it.
How do you post in the nest, though? That's something I've always been kind of wondering, and I seem to be struggling with.
Yeah, you just I mean, I'll let somebody else explain that. But essentially, you just post it, and then there's a button on the which is normally the share button, and then you can send it to the nest. But no problem, if you send it to me, I'll post it. So,
Right.
I mean, Chief. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Before you go to Chiefs, if I may, I just want to recommend. I am actively going through the questions right now, the ones that you're putting in the bottom right hand corner. We have some great panelists up here. Some controversial panelists. That seems to be some of the feedback. Maybe some hard hitting panelists. So we're going to go through those questions. So jump in. Or actually, Chief, I guess we'll just go and yield to him.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just want to clarify. I want to clarify one thing too, because I'm reading this and it looks like the numbers are inverted somehow. Let me go back. I'm going to send this to you so you can see it. The payments are in March of 2022, and there's donations of $40,000. So I wanted to clarify that because his last payment was March of 2022, and the donation was in October of 2022. But either way, like I said, it's still like contrary to what he said in 2021. So I'll send it so that you can see that. But I just wanted to correct the numbers because it's the inverse. But it's important that people look at these FEC reports and look at the way money is being concealed. And I would ask the Ron DeSantis campaign, why would they change the name of the PAC to the Empowered Parents PAC? What is it, he announced on the 24th? So what, a week, literally 1 week before his presidential announcement, they changed the name of the PAC. To me, that just signals that they're trying to hide things.
I was gonna say that. Okay.
So, but Chief, 1 second. So, once Laura sends me that, I will put it on the nest, and then everyone can see it, and then I will bring it up on space once you've sent it to me. Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying you can also reply to the actual space itself on the bottom right of your phone with the tweet, and then you can go and click the arrow button, and you should be able to select the space. But the questions that I still I think were unanswered, and I hope that it does get to these answers though. Was it a pattern issue or a spirited tweet issue? Because if you look back at the recording of the space, you'll see at one point he said it was a not a volume issue of tweets, but because the tweets were mean spirited. But then he continued later on to say that it was a pattern of this. So there is a direct kind of contradiction in there. And if that was true, at what point did he pull him aside at some point and try to explain this privately to him months ago if it was indeed a pattern? Also, there were other employees who were still there who were saying things about how they don't give an F about Ashley Babbitt's death, and I think that's egregious and very mean spirited at the bare minimum. And that's definitely an issue of mine. And then of course the terms what Laura's talking about. Who in Babylon B aside from Seth Dillon may be getting money from this or looking or a part of the whole pack? Is it a culture thing there where there's a work culture of people who get money from the DeSantis crew? How does that whole thing go? So there's a lot of unknown questions, and he did address some of them, but I don't think he fully explained the all the missing parts of the story yet. But he did come on here, but I think he kind of didn't answer everything to the entirety. So I think it's kind of at least these are the questions that I had that weren't really answered.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about the whole mean-spirited comment, because that's one of the tactics that's being used, right, by the DeSantis team, is they say, well, these Trump supporters are just so mean and vicious, and look at how mean they are in their attacks against DeSantis and all of his staffers. But then you pull up their tweets, and they're literally celebrating the death of Ashley Babbitt. And from my understanding, I wrote an entire Substack about this, how Ron DeSantis has, advocated for the J6ers to be locked up and prosecuted, and has cooperated with the FBI and allowed for Capitol Police to have a station in the state of Florida. And then his press secretary was promoted even after making the comments. And I just posted that screenshot on my Twitter about an hour ago. Again, after posting it months ago. His name's Jeremy Redfern. And when Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed, he said, I hope President Trump is impeached. And then someone was talking about how, Ashley was climbing through the window, and Jeremy Redfern, who is DeSantis's press secretary, said how to fuck around and find out 101. basically, in other words, saying that she deserved it, right? So I just think that that's very telling that, you know, the governor is willing to keep somebody on his staff to represent him. This is the guy who's responsible for doing the communications for the governor. He's his press secretary. And he thinks it's acceptable to celebrate the murder of Ashley Babbitt. I mean, President Trump has said that Ashley Babbitt was murdered. And then you have Governor DeSantis, who's giving promotions to people who are mocking her assassination. So it's a primary. It's going to get vicious. We're not going to sit here and just be nice to Governor DeSantis and his staff. That's what happens in primaries. It's often vicious, but it's important for the base to know like what they're dealing with.
Just a question on that. Do you think it's possible that both sides will become so vicious that essentially they take themselves out from a credibility perspective in terms of the actual presidential election against the Democrats?
No, I don't think so, because, you know, the difference is the DeSantis people are posting things that these are people who all supported, right? They supported President Trump, or so they say, and then they have made statements contrary to their attacks on President Trump now. So you can look at their screenshots from a year ago and they were praising Trump's foreign policy. And then now they're saying that he had terrible foreign policy. You can look at their screenshots from a year ago and they're praising his stance on immigration. And now they're saying that he's pro-amnesty.
Also,
I would say that
DeSantis's poll numbers, I don't think that DeSantis's social media team really has much of an effect on the opinions of the American people. So I don't really care if they're going to sit on the sidelines and boo-hoo to their echo chambers on Twitter. They reach the same few thousand people each day. They're not changing any hearts. They're not changing any minds. They just make asses of themselves each and every day on Twitter, and they cry like babies when they get hit back.
Alex, let me ask you the same question, because it's the same question I asked Laura, but let me add to it. That is it possible that basically on the Republican side, both sides take each other out from a credibility perspective? We know from the Democrat side, they're not going to have a fair primary. They're going to take out RFK, but Biden's going to be the anointed one, as they've done in the past. So essentially, is that risk there, Alex?
No, I don't think so, because we're not dealing with people who had any credibility to begin with. We're dealing with people like Bill Mitchell, John Cardillo, Dave Reboy. Nobody in the real world knows who these people are. No, they've never had any credibility. They're all middle-aged, childless freak shows who live in South Florida and jerk each other off for a living. Like, they never had any credibility to begin with. And so I'm not concerned about that at all. And again, if their opinion mattered, if people actually cared about what they had to say, DeSantis would be doing very well in the polls, because these people spend all day, every day for a year and a half simping for the guy. And when they tweet things, he just goes further down in the polls. And they also lose a ton of followers when they tweet anti-DeSantis or anti-Trump things.
Alex,
they
can I
lose
ask
followers.
I think, because I remember asking this to Lauren in the previous space, and I don't know if you had a chance to also answer this specific question, but if, let's say, just in a pretend world where DeSantis becomes the Republican nominee for the presidential election in 2024, would you vote for DeSantis, or would you write in Donald Trump as president
I would write in Donald Trump.
Well, here's the thing, and I appreciate that question. I think George W. Bush was one of the worst presidents in modern American history. And he is responsible for a ton of the damage that we still deal with today in our country. And Donald Trump attracted tens of millions of different, a lot of Democrat voters to the Republican Party because of his message. But there isn't much of a difference between a uniparty and a Bush Republican and a Democrat. And so I can't say for certain, but I'm very confident that President Trump will be the nominee. I think that's the best thing for our country.
And guys, trying to get DeSantis people. Normally we have a balanced panel. I don't know what's happened today. I don't know if it's Laura or what, but a lot of people are not turning up. So don't worry. So we are getting people.
But why would it be me? What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say they're probably for you, isn't it? But
I mean, maybe, but that's the thing. Like, that just goes to a lot of what you said, because you shouldn't fear somebody if you're speaking the truth. And that's why I feel so confident to speak, because I know that I'm being truthful in my defense of President Trump, the greatest president we've ever had in this country. And, to be a DeSantis supporter is to be disingenuous inherently, because to support a guy who owes his entire political career to President Donald Trump means that you don't have like a genuine or loyal bone in your body. And so that's the problem here, right? That's why it's gotten so vicious. Because as Alex said, these people don't have any credibility to run on. I mean, I participated in the recount, okay? And, before Rush Limbaugh passed away, he had said that my investigation in Broward County uncovering a box of ballots in the back of a rental car that traced back to Brenda Snipes helped save the recount, okay? And if it wasn't for that discovery that put more heat on Brenda Snipes, Andrew Gillum could have potentially been the governor. And so he barely won. It was by 32,000 votes. And it wasn't until President Trump threatened to have the DOJ come in and investigate the fraud in Palm Beach and Broward County that Ron DeSantis was looking at losing his election. We already have seen how poor he was performing in the polls against Adam Putnam, and President Donald Trump went against all of his advisors' wishes, and he endorsed Ron DeSantis anyway. And even Ron DeSantis himself has publicly said that he wouldn't be governor if it wasn't for President Trump. And now all of a sudden he wants to pretend like the president he owes his entire political career to is some kind of like leftist. And you see what DeSantis's campaign team is pushing out. They're saying that Donald Trump has lost his mind. They're saying that Donald Trump is mentally ill and that he is using Democrat talking points. They're saying that he's amnesty Don. I mean, the lies that are coming out of the DeSantis camp, I would say I would never be able to vote for Ron DeSantis if he were the nominee, because to me, DeSantis supporters are worse than Democrats. And I'll even go as far as saying that as a congressional candidate, I raised $3 million when I ran as an America First candidate. And I won't stop short of raising another $3 million to run an anti-DeSantis general election campaign if he is the nominee. I will be writing Donald Trump in black Sharpie across my ballot if Donald Trump is not the nominee for the general election. He's the only person I will be voting for.
So, guys, Laura has sent me the images. I have pinned them up to the top so you all can see them. What she sent shows is that Babylon Bee received $1,500 on the 8th of March, and then $5,000.
2022, contrary to what Seth said.
2022, yeah. And then the 23rd of March, 2022, Babylon Bee received $5,000. And then the second image shows, is it Seth himself?
It's Seth. So I had said it was a payment, but it's a donation. So I was looking on the other side. So the 1,500 and the 1,500 is the payment, and then there was more. There's the 21,000 where he said on the space earlier that the last payment was in 2021. Well, clearly that's not true because you just read the receipt I just showed you. And then the payment was to the DeSantis PAC, which has since been changed to the Empowered Parents PAC. I guess that's a donation from Seth Dillon for $40,000 less than a month before the election. So, he said he gave money to DeSantis. He said that the last payment he received from DeSantis was in 2021. That's not true. And those documents that I just sent you prove that.
Yeah, so anyone can see that. That's pinned up so that they can see that, and I've just read it out as well. So in terms of let me just bring some more people up.
Hey, Suleimani, can I respond earlier when about your...
Yeah, of course. It's Suleiman, but go ahead.
Yeah. Suleiman, is that who say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So in terms of, once the primary is over, whether or not people are going to be able to get behind Trump. And I believe obviously Trump's going to be the nominee because his base is so loyal. But I actually almost think it's a good thing that the DeSantis people are going so crazy, right? Like throw every arrow you have in your box, because at the end of the day, the strongest man is going to be standing in the end. And I fully believe that's going to be President Trump. And I think once we get past the primary, all of this sort of infighting within the Republicans is going to go away anyway, because at the end of the day, the question then is going to be, do you want open borders or closed borders? Do you want wars? Do you want your money going to Ukraine? Do you want, double the cost of groceries at the store? Do you want energy independence? And that's what people are going to be thinking about. They're not going to be thinking about, what DeSantis people and Trump people said to each other on Twitter, right? So I really don't think after the primary, any of this stuff is really going to matter. And I just think that, everything going on right now with this Trump DeSantis war, and there's other people that could be putting their hat in the ring. I heard my governor Chris Sununu might be putting his hat in the ring. The more the merrier. Like, everyone should really duke it out so that when we finally have our nominee, it's truly the best that we have to offer, which I believe is going to be President Trump.
Laura, I've just removed that tweet. I know it's from a public site, but if you could remove Seth's address and then I'll repost it, just so we don't have any kind of blowback. I know it's from a public address, but just to make sure that we don't have that situation.
Oh, sorry. I figured you would do that. Yeah. I mean, I was just sending it to you so that you could see it. I haven't posted it yet, but
I deleted it. I didn't.
So I'm not doxing anybody. Those are all like public records. So.
Yeah. I know the public records. I made that clear.
I sent it to you privately.
I am curious to see those text messages, Laura. Are you really going to post them?
Yeah, I mean, they've already been posted. They were posted on my Twitter account in February. And, I'm just telling you, it wasn't like, oh, this is an off the record conversation. I respect that. If he had said it was off the record, he had said, I want you to correct your tweet. And I said, well, what exactly do you not find accurate with my tweet? And then you can see in the entire text thread, we're going back and forth. And I said, how's this? Right. And we came to an agreeable position because he wanted me to delete my post that showed the expenditures altogether. And I said, I'm not going to do that. So I'm happy to get a statement from you. And I want to know what exactly the payments were for. And I'll just read them right now, the text messages. It said, hold on a second. Why is DeSantis paying Babylon Bee? Seth said, you could consider us speechwriting consultants. We help him find funny angles on Democrats. We don't attack Trump for him. That's silly and false. They've never even suggested that we write anything about Trump. And then I sent him a screen grab of their article that said Trump attacks DeSantis for failing to fire Dr. Fauci, rushing untested vaccine. And in this article at the very bottom, it's like they say it's satire, but they used a quote from Christina Pushaw that I guess they made up. But it's interesting that, this whole conversation in space was created because of Pushaw's interaction with Gavin Wax. And at the very end of this quote unquote satire article, there's a quote from Pushaw where it says something like, oh, well, I guess Biden's dementia is contagious in DC. Basically saying oh, Trump has dementia. Okay. And when I sent that to Seth and I said, you say that you're not attacking Trump, he said, oh, that's funny. Trump deserves it. Trump deserves it. I mean, that's a very emotionally charged statement to say, Trump deserves it, right? So he admitted in these messages, and I don't care, I'll send them to you. I've already posted them. I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm just trying to get the truth out there because there's a lot of people out there that want to claim that they're Trump supporters, but they're really for Team DeSantis. And look, it's a primary. I'm not telling Seth he can't vote for DeSantis. If he wants to vote for DeSantis, fine. I'm voting for Trump. But at least be honest about it. And I said the same thing about Elon Musk. I'm grateful I got my account back. But for Elon Musk to say he's impartial and then say things like, oh, yeah, well, DeSantis had fundraising records and it's not true. Elon Musk literally got fact checked by the site he owns because they kept on saying that DeSantis broke fundraising records by raising $8.5 million. And the fundraising record goes to Donald Trump.
Didn't the Babylon Bee, though, didn't actually say Claire,
guys.
maybe
One second, Heather, let me bring in Bunchy. Bunchy, I believe that you're pro DeSantis. What's your thoughts on basically the conversation that's happened now and essentially in terms of the whole Seth Dillon situation with the Babylon Bee?
Well, I think it's a private company and he had every right to do what he did. I mean, I think he's absolutely right that everybody in this space, if it was a DeSantis supporter he fired, would not care. They wouldn't be tweeting about it. They wouldn't be saying anything about it. And I understand you're friends with Gavin, many of you guys. And now I'll just say personally, I would not have done it publicly. I think that's the wrong way to do it. I wouldn't have done it. If I was his boss, I would have called him and I would have said, hey, we need to calm this down a bit. You're getting a little too out of control. And I think everybody in this space, if you have a little humility, you say you've done the same thing. Everybody's gotten out of control. They've overreacted. They've lashed out. They've tweeted something they shouldn't have. But I think the stuff that Laura's saying, we're taking her word for it. I mean, but her record's not the best. So I don't know why we're going to sit here and and hear about, these payments and that payment. She admits she doesn't know what the payments are for, and yada, yada, yada. And now we're like getting deep into the weeds of just slandering the Babylon Bee when that's not even what the original topic was about. So that's my thoughts on it. I think Seth is a private businessman who made a decision that he felt like he needed to make.
I never said that I admitted I didn't know what the payments were for. I just read you text messages. So again, another lie. I just read you messages where he said that they were for speech writing services. So
Which
again,
payment? Which
I'm
payment?
being honest here. I have screenshots to prove
Which
it.
payment? You're saying a lot of things,
The
but you're a terrible
the
liar. So which payment?
$21,000 payment. I'm not a habitual liar. I know that DeSantis supporters love accusing Trump supporters of being liars because you guys are liars and you don't have integrity. But listen, the screenshots
All right.
prove what I
Hey,
said.
Laura's
I
been
just showed
talking
you
for
the
what, 30 minutes now?
payments.
Finish what I'm saying,
Oh
please.
yeah, she's talked now and she's proving my point. So can we just have her go away? I mean, if you're gonna
No, but
talk
I
a bunch
mean,
of bullshit, you're gonna get called out for it. I'm sending him the screenshots now, so you can just shut the hell up.
Agreed. Bonchi's a nasty guy. He hides behind an anon. He's vicious. At least Laura puts her face out there and her name out there. And Bonchi, you're really a nasty guy. You were complaining about Christina Pusha being criticized for her appearance, and believe me, there's a lot of material there to work with, a lot of Botox to work with. And then you were posting pictures of GOP Josh's face. He's 16 years old, and this is the first time hearing you speak. And it sounds like you're a grown man. And so you were cyberbullying a young man, and now you're in here crying about people's behavior. So Bonchi, I think you have a lot of issues, and you're
I
probably
know
one of
this
the worst
space is
exes out
about
there.
20-1 MAGA supporters, and that's great. Like I've voted for Trump twice. I have no problem talking to you guys, but you're going to have to let me speak instead of three of you jumping on at one time. So I'll address that. Absolutely. What Josh did, and first of all, I didn't know how old he was. I don't care how old he is. If you come on Twitter and you make a disparaging, vicious comment about a woman saying that her face is so full of Botox that it doesn't move, the idea that it's improper
That
for me.
Bonchi, that's a
Let me
fact.
finish what I'm saying.
I never
please.
said that, to be clear.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. What did you say? Give the exact quote, Josh. Exact quote.
I'll put it up so it'll stay and you can read it. I'll put it up on the space.
Great. Give the exact quote.
But is that a fact, Bonchi?
So, guys,
Have you
one
seen her speak?
one second. Seth is back. I'm not
sorry.
sure how long
I'm
you got
not
him.
going to. I'm not going to get into these. I'm not going to get into these. What?
1 second, bro. Seth is back. Oh, he dropped again. Oh, go ahead now, Bunchy. I was gonna bring Seth back in.
And look, let me just finish this because I know nobody cares about this. This is a little Twitter.
No, Bunchy. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm going straight to you. What I was saying was, just finish your point because Seth is back, so I do want some of the things that
Absolutely,
Laura
absolutely. He's way more important than me. I get it. Look, the point is this: Christina Pushaw did nothing to GOP Josh. He lashed out talking about her physical appearance, and I posted his picture that's on his profile, and I said, "This is the person who's talking about somebody else's appearance." That was, I'd have to go look up the exact quote, but that was what I was saying. Now, Alex cropped out the quote tweet that I was quoting. You cropped it out so that people couldn't see I was responding to someone. And here's my point.
Hey, Bonchi, like when you crop out the dates of the payments from Save America PAC, you're one of the biggest spreaders of the propaganda that I was paid $35,000 to attack DeSantis. And you know that's a lie.
Find a tweet where I
said you crop out the dates.
No, I think you're confusing me with somebody else. I've never even called you the $35,000 man. So, I mean, Dave and Max, other people have made that joke about you. I don't even call you that. In fact, every time I respond to you, it's something where you're lying or how many posts have you deleted in the past week where you've said something false and then you realize it's false?
All right, guys.
No, I do that.
Let me finish my point about the.
No, guys, you guys are just basically, it's about a personal thing and I'm not really bothered about it. It's boring. So let me go to Seth. Seth, thanks for coming back. Laura has sent us some, any thoughts you've got initially, but in addition to that, Laura has sent some payments that were made by yourself to DeSantis's team, DeSantis's PAC. So
and I also sent you the screenshots right now so you can see everything I'm saying is true because I take great offense to being called a liar. And I'm really tired of people saying that I'm like crazy and that I'm a conspiracy theorist. And, that's what the left did to me for 5 years when they deplatformed me and banned me everywhere for posting and breaking the story about Omar marrying her brother and being an anti-Semite. Like, it's really disgusting how they use these leftist talking points to try to say that, oh, she's like mentally ill or unstable or she's unwell or, you know, she's a conspiracy theorist. Everything that I've said has turned out to be true. I always provide documentation to back up what I'm saying. So it's really disgusting.
So, Laura, let me go to
Can I say,
Seth. Seth, go ahead,
can I
bro.
say, can I say that real quickly? Just
No, 1 second, Chief. Chief, let Seth go. Chief, go ahead. Sorry, Seth, go
Yeah.
ahead.
What am I responding to? I'm not sure what I've missed.
All right, Cos. Yeah. So what you missed was, since you've been gone, Laura has provided images and evidences of two things. The first thing is payments from Babylon. Payments to Babylon B, which went up to 2022. And the second thing is your and so the final payment. One payment was on the 8th of March, 2022, of $1,500. The second one was 23rd of March, 2022, which was $5,000. And then your personal donations, one of which is £250 on the in 2021, and the second one on 2022 on the 13th of October, which was $40,000. So I believe that so that was the first thing, and then I'll go on to the other messages afterwards. But I believe you said previously that the last time there was any kind of donation or any type of money received by Babylon B was on 2021.
No, I said that the screenshot that everybody's sharing crops off the dates. That screenshot was of payments from 2021, I believe, for list rentals. That's what I said earlier. So I guess I'm there's all of this, the questions about payments that we receive or what they're for. We're not always at liberty to disclose things like that. A lot of business relationships have contractual agreements that restrict what you can say about that. I had made comments to Laura in more detail that I believed were off the record. She didn't honor that. And I guess, she claims that she said that she never I guess, consenting to going off the record.
It was just all over text.
Perhaps,
We didn't have a verbal conversation. It was text
and
messages.
I wanted
I'm
to, before I
happy
spoke to you, I wanted to make sure that it was off the record because I wasn't at liberty to.
But it doesn't say in the text messages off the record. You never said off the record. I went through my
get really
messages.
specific into the semantics. Obviously, I was concerned about what I was saying to you, if you were talking to me as a journalist or not. So it's very frustrating that you're now sharing the information that was shared with you privately, publicly. I'm not ashamed of these things. A lot of these things are protected by agreements where there's non-confidentiality. You're not allowed to speak about them publicly. I can say definitively and factually and deny categorically that we have ever been paid to attack Trump on behalf of DeSantis or any affiliate of DeSantis, any PAC. We are a satire site. We make jokes. That's what we do. We're not in anybody's pocket. We don't choose sides. We will run email campaigns for anybody. We will consult and do speech writing for anybody who wants to punch up jokes in their speeches, but we are not paid to be shills for one candidate or another and promote them on our website or attack other people at their behest. And those are disgusting lies. You talk about you don't like being lied about, but implying that and getting everybody to believe that is really wrong. I think it's really wrong. We are not in political games here where we're getting involved in politics. We are a comedy site. And we take things very lightly and make fun of everybody, including DeSantis. Look at the jokes we've just made about DeSantis. And we are receiving no current payments from him. We are not on his payroll. We don't want to be involved at all during the primaries now that he's announced that he's running. We don't want to be even have the perception that we're involved with either campaign. So we're not doing any work or any list rentals during that time. I think it's
down and up again?
The same policy that.
I'll do that, Sebastian.
Same policy that the Daily Wire has. They're not currently running any campaigns or, like email campaigns or doing anything with either candidate until the primary's decided. And I think that's a prudent policy. And we share that view that we shouldn't be doing anything like that just so it doesn't even get the appearance of us being one-sided. But we are not taking sides. The Babylon Bee is not political as an organization. We make fun of everyone from a Christian worldview. And I really resent that people are trying to paint us in that light. And again, I go back to this point that I made earlier. Even if we were in one camp or another, don't we have a right to be? Like, why does that make us evil? It's so silly. It's ridiculous. Like, we don't have a right to freely associate with whoever we want to. I'm proud of whatever I've been able to do to help DeSantis get elected by donating to his campaign or going to the governor's mansion was a great honor. Going to Mar-a-Lago was a great honor. I'm not embarrassed of any of it. It's not a gotcha where something confidential that I'm ashamed of that's being hidden is being leaked into the public. There are situations where you have contractual agreements where you're not supposed to talk about these things, and you have non-confidentiality in place. Employment agreements have that. Contracts with contractors have that. And so you can't always talk openly about it, but that doesn't mean that you're hiding it because you're ashamed of it or you think it's wrong. I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done.
Is it? But so
Seth, in terms of the payments, obviously these ones are public. I guess the main question people have is, I mean, if I remember right, the most recent payment, which is in the public records, which Laura shared, was in October 2022, which is about seven months ago. Has there been any payments from the DeSantis camp to you or vice versa? And why it's important is you can be on anyone's side. I don't think anyone disputes that. What the concern is, if you are on DeSantis' side, then or not. But if you are, then I think there needs to be transparency.
I'm not talking
Hang,
about.
hang, can I just jump in? Hang on, Seth, can I just say something here?
Sure.
Who the hell cares? He's not a news agency, and it's his bloody company. What hell right do we have to know he's getting payments from? It's a satire company. Why are we grilling this guy? It's un-American.
And why should I have to disclose any of this stuff? It's a lot of this stuff is done under agreements. Every agreement that we have with an outside contractor has some kind of an agreement, or where if we're providing services to somebody that restrict what you're allowed to say about amounts and when and dates and all of these things. I don't get why this is anybody's business, and I don't understand why anybody thinks that it means that we're somehow in somebody's pocket just because we do business with somebody. Again, like I said, I'm happy to take money from Trump's people if they want to run campaigns with us or have us do work for them in some capacity. Happy to do that. I'm happy to go speak at press conferences for him if he'd like me to support his digital bill of rights or anything that he wants to do regarding censorship. I'm happy to just support the cause itself. So, I don't understand why anybody cares. I'm not obligated to answer any specific questions about amounts or dates or anything like that. I don't know why you guys are still up in arms about it. We're a comedy site. Laugh at the jokes or not. If you don't think we're funny, unfollow us.
But
so Seth, let me ask you, because
why do you all care?
Obvious. Well, so I want to shift
Nobody
just a little
cares.
bit here.
People just want to make sure you're not
Heather,
fired.
no, I'm going to shift here just a little bit.
You care very much.
Because this is the. And again, we appreciate you coming back up here and facing the fire here. Obviously, the question that sparked this entire thing, it had to do with the tweets where Gavin Mario Wax, who was he was your vice president of marketing. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he asked, "Hey, Christina Pushall, what is your fucking problem?" And you responded initially and said, "What's yours? Tweeting like this with the B in your bio doesn't work for me." And then he followed up and it just glitched out. He followed up with to that tweet. At what point did you decide that you were going to fire him? Was it the first tweet, or was it when you went back and said you can remove the B from your bio now? And if you can tell us what his response was, that would be good, because my phone just totally froze.
I can't speak to anything from offline. All I can speak to is what was said publicly. I think the tweets speak for themselves, and I've explained my action there. So I don't know why. I'm not sure why. Like, how many hours could we have a conversation about? If there's anything specific that we haven't talked about that anybody would like me to respond to, I'm happy to. But we had the conversation about the tweets already.
So if he agrees,
we do have a much bigger. We do have a much larger
Nick,
audience now. So the point that I'm trying to ask is, people want to know, and they keep asking it in the comment section, which is why I brought it back up. So clearly a lot of people didn't hear it. Was there any sort of offline conversation before you guys had this back and forth?
I'm not getting into details of a personnel matter beyond what was said publicly that people can look at. And I said that earlier, and people can go back and listen to the beginning of the space if they want to hear what was said earlier. I don't want to. How many times do we have to go over that?
Could I just, because I think I can clarify something here. The reason, at least for what I kind of cared about it for, was because I've heard about Gavin with his work with young Republicans in New York, and from what we saw on Twitter, we saw him do something. He made a tweet And whether there's a pattern or not, you kind of at one point said it was not the volume, but the spirit of tweets. And then the other time you said it's the pattern. So that was the confusion there. And then what happened afterwards, he got fired on Twitter publicly, and that kind of appeared for people online who don't really look into stuff a lot to appear to be some sort of not really retaliation, but a way to get rid of someone who was defending himself on there. Now, if there's an internal problem with him performance-wise, that's something we have no clue about. I'm sure not gonna be able to talk to us if you've talked to him in the past about performance or other issues. Maybe you've talked in the past about his tweets.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure.
earlier it was there
Yep.
was all this conversation about whether it was political or not. I explained it has nothing to do with his politics, which candidate he supports, or who I support. It had nothing to do with that. This was a conduct matter.
Okay, so it was was it the volume of the tweets or
Guys, is there anything new or interesting that we can talk about that we haven't already gone over?
Just what
Yeah.
yeah.
So Seth, although this isn't new,
What is,
like you did answer this question a number of times before, but so Seth, let me just. But in the comments, one of the main contentions they had, and it's your choice if you want to clarify this point. But one of the main contentions people are having is that they feel like you've not held a single position. So at one point you said it's the volume of tweets, and the second time it was the spirit. So that's what people in the comments feel. So that's why that's the reason why. If you want to clarify, it's your choice. If you don't want to, it's none of your business.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to what I said earlier. The reason everybody cares is because they want to turn this into me attacking a Trump person because they were defending themselves against DeSantis people, and I'm a paid DeSantis shill, and I'm defending my DeSantis friends. That's how everybody's trying to spin this and present this, and that's why everybody cares, and that's why everybody keeps asking me these same questions over and over again. It has nothing to do with any of that. And my own reasons for it, I can have my own reasons for it. It's my company. I can run my company how I please. And if you're concerned about whether or not I'm internally consistent or how I'm applying my employee handbook and rules with my different employees, like, it's a totally different issue. The topic of this is censorship, and everybody's concerned about whether this is a DeSantis Trump thing, and I've answered all of that. So I don't have to explain to anybody my hiring and firing decisions. I run a company the way that I please. I explained my reasons for why I felt I needed to part ways with a person who I felt like wasn't conducting himself in a manner that reflected well on the Babylon Bee. And so, that's that. So it doesn't go beyond that. And the fact that we're still now hours later retreading the same ground is bizarre to me. Aren't you all bored?
So Seth, you know what it is? So in terms of being a private company, you're right. It is your company. You can do what you want. But at the same time, people are able to voice their concerns. So, for example, Twitter is now Elon Musk's own company. But let's say he decided to ban every single conservative. That would have people would talk about it. People would be angry. People would be upset because that would be a form of censorship.
Right, of course. And I've already explained, though, that I don't ban people based on their opinions. I haven't made any hiring or firing decisions based on people's viewpoints. That's never happened. It never will happen. I've explained that repeatedly. So you guys could keep asking me about it, and I'll just tell you the same thing. I'll say what I said earlier. I don't make those decisions based on people's viewpoints. I'm not censoring people because I don't like a viewpoint they've expressed. I disagree with a lot of my employees on a lot of things. I disagree with them on theological points. I disagree with them on political points. We have those disagreements in our Slack channel sometimes. We have them face to face. Nobody ever gets fired for it. It's opinion. People have a right to their opinions.
So, Seth, I'll go just a little bit. We'll go to just a little bit of a different topic here, because you have been very much tied in at this point with the Trump versus DeSantis debate. Is this a problem for the party? Is this just so ugly to the point where you see a lot of people? I know Laura said earlier, or maybe it wasn't Laura, maybe it was somebody else on stage, that said that they would absolutely not vote for Ron DeSantis. At the time, how do you see this going from here? Because obviously you've been a huge target of one side of this.
I think it's unfortunate. I think it's a problem for the party. It's healthy to have primaries and debates over who should be the right candidate. It's a very healthy thing for us to have conversations about that and to debate it and for the best candidate to rise to the top and win. I think it's an unhealthy thing when any group supporting one or the other candidate considers it some kind of moral crime or political crime, something unacceptable for them to not support the candidate that they prefer. I think it's very unhealthy, and I think you have that on both sides to some extent in this conversation. And the fact that we're getting caught up in it, I think it's just silly and ridiculous. I keep going back to the fact that we're a satire site. Oh, you've caught us. We got some payments. Whatever. We'll take payments from any candidate or person that we, obviously there'd be some that we wouldn't. I probably wouldn't accept money from Biden to run campaigns, and he wouldn't want to. But we're not making selections along those lines where it's people that we prefer to work with over somebody else, and we don't endorse candidates. We make jokes on the internet. That's what we do. And so it's bizarre to me that we're caught up in the middle of this. It's just a situation where everybody wants to vilify anyone who they feel might not be in their corner. And it's a way of coercing people. It's a way of manipulating them and bullying them and punishing them if they don't get in line and do what you want them to do. I find that extremely toxic and unhealthy.
Seth,
And
does this put
it's
you
bad
under
for the country.
going forward? We know that from the Republican side, from the Democrat side, I already mentioned this. I think there's going to be no issue. They don't have a fair primary. Biden's going to win. But with the GOP, there is a fair primary. Do you think, and it does seem like things are going to get a lot more vicious, a lot more aggressive. Does that put you under pressure to double think about things that you're going to post in concern that you're going to maybe offend either party?
No, I don't really. It doesn't bother me if people get upset or offended. I don't think we take any of that into consideration. We're going to make jokes about whatever we think is funny.
So it wouldn't put you under pressure, let's say hypothetically, based on now the fact that it's been framed and people do believe it, especially from the Trump side, that you're essentially on DeSantis' side.
We just made jokes about Trump the other day.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
And people capitalize on it and they screenshot it and they say, "Oh, look, see, it's obvious. They're paid by DeSantis to make fun." We've made more jokes at Trump's expense than any other person. If you search Trump on our website, we've made more jokes at his expense than any other person. I voted for him. A bunch of us did. It doesn't mean we're not going to make jokes at his expense, and it doesn't mean that DeSantis has been paying us since the site was started in 2016. That's absurd.
No, I get that. But going forward, let's say now, would this put you under pressure, like hypothetically speaking, if you did have more memes against Trump compared to DeSantis? Like, would you be thinking, let me balance it out? Like, as a CEO, how would you be dealing with this from now on?
No, I mean, people are going to say what they're going to say. Look, everything that I've just said to refute this idea that we're in somebody's pocket, most of the people that are listening that have already made up their mind on this don't care. They're not interested in the truth. They're just interested in a narrative, and they'll continue to advance that narrative. So it is what it is. You can't make everybody see things the way that you want them to be seen or the way that they actually are. So you just have to go about your business as usual. So we're gonna target the targets that deserve it. We're not going to be hands off DeSantis, even if 90% of the people who work at the Bee decide to vote for DeSantis. We're not going to be hands off of him because of that. We all made fun of Trump, and we're making fun of him when we voted for him. So it's silly to expect that we should behave a certain way or not behave a certain way. Again, everybody's so worked up about a comedy site. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody explain why. Why does everybody care so much? None of these things. Like I heard someone say a minute ago, like, what do you guys care? Like this is a private company making their private decisions. I don't know. I think it's just an excuse to find somebody to vilify and punish. And I think that's bullying. And I think it's wrong. And yes, I think it's unhealthy for the country.
Well, Seth, look, I feel like you didn't even have to come on the second time, but you've essentially come on. You've answered every single question, some of which you've answered like maybe 10 times. So, yeah, we appreciate you coming on. But I actually don't think there's any more questions you can be asked because you've kind of covered everything you need to. But
I agree.
Feel free to stay on if you wish to. But essentially, that's my perspective. But, yeah, Nick, go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, definitely want to thank you, Seth Dillon. I think you did a great job actually going through the questions, explaining your side. You didn't run away from them. So regardless of what people think, on the panel and in the audience, I'm sure you gained a lot of respect just for doing that. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Look, this is not a situation where there's a gotcha. There's some undercover reports that are going to expose what we've been doing. There's nothing that we have to hide. There's nothing that we're doing that's unethical. We're not in anybody's camp. We're having fun making fun of people, and we're happy to support. I'm happy to support my governor in Florida. I'm happy to support the president when we get a new president who replaces this one. The whole conversation to me, this whole thing is really overblown and kind of silly, and the fact that we've gotten into the weeds so much about the reasons for the firing or the reasons for the tweets and when decisions were made and all of that. I'm not sure why any of that is relevant to anybody in this space. This is a personnel matter in a private company. And yes, obviously the things that happened publicly were public. You can see what I had to say and my reasons for doing what I did. But again, like I said, the fight. I think the fighting is unhealthy. When I ended my comments earlier, I emphasized the importance of us kind of being kinder, being more charitable. Let's not try to see the worst in everybody and assume that they're our enemy. We can disagree with each other and even vote for different people, and it doesn't mean that we have to be enemies or treat each other as enemies.
Yeah. So actually, we have two more questions real quick. I want to bring in. I'm going to bring in Paul here in just a second, who is he's a member of the New York Young Republicans Club, and he would like to address it. But I want to bring Aaron Kheriaty real quick, so you have a pretty good question. Jump in, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Seth, thanks for being on here. Big fan of Babylon Bee. I think this whole tempest in the teacup is pretty absurd. But I want to ask you, because I've been concerned about how hard it's become to do comedy now in our society. And I think actually Babylon Bee's comedy is pretty charitable. It's pretty gentle, chiding. It's very funny, but it's, a lot of humor can be extremely hostile. And I think you guys, for the most part, avoid that on both sides of the political spectrum. But the fact is, so many comedians have a hard time going on campus these days. It's just become harder to make jokes in this society. And it seems to me that that's a very bad thing for society, a very bad thing for us politically, because, the role of the court jester in society has always been able to say things to the king that other people couldn't get away with saying because, they get their heads lopped off. And particularly in a free and democratic society like ours, where you're supposed to be able to say things to the king if you don't like what the government is doing, it's become harder to do that. It's become harder to do that even through the sort of role of comedy and jokes in our society. And I'm just wondering, as somebody who runs a site that I think does a terrific job of trying to do this and trying to be fair about it, you guys, certainly have your maybe political slant or whatever. But what you've been navigating, what you've been dealing with seems to me to be actually not trivial, because it's a sign that, something has gone really sideways in our current cultural climate. I wonder if you could comment on, the role of a site like the Babylon Bee in a healthy culture.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Nice to switch topics, honestly. Well, comedy's hard for a number of reasons. I think that, if the Bee goes out of business, it's going to be because the real world and satire have become completely indistinguishable from each other. That everything feels like a parody these days. Every story that you see in a real headlines is so over the top, it's almost impossible to satirize it. So that's one challenge for comedy. But another challenge is that there's a lot of people who don't want to hear the truth, and comedy is a vehicle for truth delivery. They don't like to confront the truth, and they don't like that comedy speaks truth so effectively. And so, it gets caught in the crossfire of the people who are at war with the truth and reality, which is, in our view, predominantly people on the left. But there's also this kind of culture and climate where people are, taking themselves too seriously and less willing than ever to laugh. And I think that's a bad thing too. Like you said, there's a lot of comedians who won't go on college campuses anymore. Everybody wants their safe space. It's very, very unhealthy mentality to be in. We take ourselves so seriously. We think we have this right to not be offended. And that's just ridiculous. And I think, comedy that speaks uncomfortable truths, that kind of makes us squirm in our seat a little bit, not always laugh, but like we're the butt of the joke. But there's some truth to it. That's a healthy thing to kind of examine yourself in that way and laugh at yourself. So, comedians who are still willing to make the jokes that they're not supposed to make, I really value them. There's even a few of them on the left still today, who I think are doing a good job of pushing back on the culture's madness and continuing to make jokes about things like, for example, gender affirming care for kids. And I put that in scare quotes because I don't like using their euphemisms. But yeah, comedy is important. It brings levity to these situations. It allows us to it helps us to take ourselves a little bit less seriously. And honestly, we're all passengers on the ship of fools from time to time and deserve to be laughed at and deserve to laugh at ourselves. So, I think humor is beneficial in that way. And I also think there's an importance for mocking things that deserve to be mocked. I've said this many times before in public statements and in speeches that if we have this idea that we've improved morally because we make fun of fewer things. And I think nothing could be further than the truth. I think that we're more depraved than ever because we've affirmed and accepted things that we should have as a culture ridiculed and rejected. And so there's a moral imperative to mockery. There are bad ideas that have bad effects in society that need to be mocked. They need to be torn down. And so I think humor has a role to play there too. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was terrific. Thank you.
Let's
Paul?
go to Paul.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick, for bringing me on. And I just had a couple more questions for Seth regarding sort of the nature of Gavin's firing. And by the way, I'm part of the Young Republicans Club in New York City, and I'm a very strong supporter of Donald Trump. And people who follow my Twitter account know exactly which side I fall on the Trump-DeSantis war, so to speak. But I appreciate Seth for coming on tonight. I appreciate the fact that I wasn't here for the entire forum, the entire discussion, but I appreciate the fact that he was answering questions from many people who were hostile to him, and he did so with relative grace. But the bottom line is this was a very public firing. He did this on Twitter. Now I know the fact that Seth now is saying, this is a private company and this matter is to be handled internally. But the bottom line is that this was made on a public forum. It was made on Twitter, and it was in response to a flagrantly political tweet. Gavin called out expressly Christine Pushaw in that tweet. Now, for Seth to maintain that, this is apparently some sort of violation of a no vulgarity policy on part of, the Babylon Bee. I would like to hear a little bit more about what that policy entails, because, many people have tweeted other employees of the Babylon Bee who have used the F word as well as other vulgarities, other curse words on social media quite frequently. And it doesn't seem like those people were fired from the company based on my understanding. So I'm just trying to get a little better sense of what exactly the no vulgarity policy is of the Babylon Bee, if this is posted anywhere, and what exactly did Gavin do in violation of that policy? And why did that specific tweet trigger that policy that made you to decide to hire him?
Yeah, I've already addressed most of that, so I don't really feel the need to speak to it anymore.
Yeah, you've already answered that.
Yeah. Look.
Is it like a specific policy you have, or is this just sort of a general sort of approach that you're applying on a person by person basis? And it seems like unclear. I mean, I know you've already discussed this, but for many of us on this side, we're still a little unclear about exactly what this policy is.
Yeah. I don't see how that's really anybody's business on this call. This is a public space where I'm not getting into the details of personnel matters.
Well, it was a public firing, so I mean the fact that you made the decision to fire him on a public forum. So given that fact, you would think that you would provide a little bit more context, a little bit more elaboration about what this specific policy is that you're implementing.
I didn't say you're fired in a public forum.
Well,
I never said that.
So did you? Well, maybe. All right. So maybe let me clarify. Did you not fire him from the company?
I said my tweets speak for themselves. I don't think that I ever in a tweet said you're fired.
So did you or did you not fire Gavin?
I've had communication with Gavin, but I never said that you're fired in a tweet.
You're saying now you actually didn't fire Gavin Wax from the Babylon?
That is not what I'm saying. No, that is not what I'm saying.
So what are you saying?
I said, you said this was a public firing. I said I never tweeted you were fired. So I'm not sure which tweet you're referring to that you're saying this was a public firing.
What does it mean to say? I mean, it's strongly implied by saying remove the B from your username or from your profile that you're terminating the employee. Is that a correct inference to make from that tweet, or what exactly were you trying to say about that?
Seth, before you answer, I do want to just share just some breaking news before you answer. Fox News is reporting that both President Biden and McCarthy have apparently reached a tentative deal on the debt ceiling negotiations. I just wanted to share that for the space.
Okay.
Look, maybe you could clarify what that tweet meant,
Yeah,
because
I'm not.
maybe this is a whole big misunderstanding. Maybe you didn't actually fire him, and you're just saying, I don't. Maybe that meant something else. So maybe.
I'm just saying you're saying that it was a public. You don't know all the details because
Well,
you
all
only
I'm
know what's
asking you is
public, and there was no tweet that said you're fired.
So what did that tweet mean?
So you said it was a
So
public
what
firing.
did you mean by the tweet? Remove your the Babylon Bee from your Twitter. What does that mean?
It means remove the Babylon Bee from your Twitter.
Why would you ask him to do that? Like, what's the significance of that? I'm wondering.
I think the context is clear in the conversation.
Well, it's clearly not, because I don't understand it, and a lot of people on this call don't understand it. A lot of people interpreted it as a firing of Gavin, and you're now saying it wasn't a firing.
Are you Gavin's counsel?
I'm not Gavin's counsel. I'm just asking legitimate questions that people have.
Well, when Gavin's counsel wants to talk about those details, we can talk about them with his counsel.
Well, you only talk to lawyers? I mean, this is a public space. I thought, I'm just trying to ask a very basic question. What does that tweet mean? You're now saying it wasn't a termination. So what exactly does that tweet mean?
That tweet meant what it said.
So what did it say? Could you rephrase it? I'm just trying to is it correct to say you did not fire him in that tweet?
I don't think that a tweet that says remove the Babylon Bee from your profile is explicitly telling somebody that they're fired. No.
So
and you're reading into that and saying that it was a public firing.
Wait, so what was the intent of the tweet? I'm just trying to get my mind around exactly why you tweeted that in the first place.
I tweeted many times explaining myself, and I already explained myself earlier in this conversation. Is there anybody who has something new?
Well, I mean, it seems like none of these questions have been answered in the first place.
He answered them all through the beginning. He answered every single one of these questions. And whether you agree with him or not, he answered them. He said that he did it because he did not want Gavin representing the company with his behavior. And whatever you think of the policy or what the policy is or whatever, he answered the questions for 2 straight hours earlier. I don't know why everyone over.
He doesn't want Gavin to excuse me. He doesn't want Gavin to represent the company.
I can choose who I want. Yeah, I can choose who I want to be a public representative of the company.
Paul, to answer your question, Paul, his tweet didn't directly say he's fired, but the tweet implies that's all this whole exchange is. The tweet didn't directly say he's fired, but we can make assumptions based on when it said remove the bee. That's
so
the
guys.
I'm gonna need to move on. If there's
1 second, Paul. I'm just going to stop this 1 second. Look, we've asked Seth a number of questions. I'm not trying to back him up. I asked him a lot of tough questions myself. At the end of the day, I get it, you're a lawyer, and I don't think it's fair for him to be answering specific questions when there is a very large possibility this is going to go down the legal route anyway. And so from that perspective, in terms of the specificities, he's going to deal with that as it comes along. But it's specifically your question he answered. What you want is a more specific answer in a specific context, and I don't think that's fair for him to answer when he's going to there is a chance that this is going to go down, and that's why he asked you, are you his counsel? So I think we've covered this issue.
Just one more point. I don't want to belabor this, but I mean, I didn't get.
Well, you can ask me,
I didn't get a specific or a general answer. I'm just trying to get an answer at all.
No, but this is what you're not understanding. Like, my point is this: you've asked a question. I'm not saying your question is unfair, but we've asked the same question a number of times throughout the space. Which Seth has answered it from his perspective of how he's able to answer it, and he said that essentially when he said remove the Babylon Bee, it's because he didn't want him to be a representative of the company. Now you could say that sounds like a firing, and that's going to be something that is going to be argued by Max's team, and Seth may argue that it wasn't. So we don't know what that is, but essentially that's something that's going to be dealt with in court, isn't it?
Are all employees just considered representatives of the Babylon Bee who work there? I'm just trying to figure that out. Like did Gavin play a specific role? Was he? I don't know his specific role in the company.
I mean, I can answer this, but obviously Seth can correct me. I'd assume that anyone who's got a Babylon Bee logo on them is in a way representing the company when they're posting. So
Okay.
Yeah,
if it's
there are people on our team who choose to be in their profile and have generated followings and become public figures associated with the B, either because they're on our podcast or whatever. Um, but again, the decision that was made. There's been a lot of explanation of it in this conversation, and there's also my public tweets about it that you can go back and reference. But you're trying to get very granular into the specifics and semantics, and I'm just not interested in having a conversation like that in this forum.
Do you, just taking it off of Gavin though now, do you have like a no vulgarity policy? Like, could you explain what that is? If
He's
the
not going
company,
to answer internal. He's already said that.
I'm not going to. Are you going to keep asking me questions and I'm not going to answer so that we can just spin our wheels like this?
I mean, I think a lot of people still have these
I'm not addressing
questions.
these.
From what I'm seeing on Twitter and other places, it seems like a lot of people still have a lot
He's
of
not gonna
questions
answer
regarding.
Paul. Right, yeah, Paul. He's not going to answer them. He's not going to budge on that. I don't think. So
look,
You can ask it 10 different. You can ask it 10 different ways, buddy.
I'm just trying to figure out exactly what happened here. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the bottom line is this was a public thing. You made this tweet on a public forum that is Twitter, and thousands of people have seen it, thousands of people have retweeted it. So, now to kind of like, it seems like you're pivoting a little bit. Now you're, trying to claim like you're a victim here. You're being unfairly harassed by Trump people or whatever it is. You're the one who initiated this in the first place by making this tweet in response to Gavin and doing it in so public a manner. So, I think you kind of invited this sort of interrogation. I'm sorry if I'm being a little harsh over here or a little tough, but I think a lot of people still have questions.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to play victim. I do think that it's nasty the way that people respond in these situations. I think that Gavin's behavior ever since has only validated the decision that I made.
What exactly has he done ever since that tweet was issued yesterday? Do you have an example?
He's continued to behave in a reprehensible manner.
But by doing what?
Publicly. So that's by tweeting in a reprehensible manner. We're not going to go. You can go read his tweets if you'd like.
Is that just because he supports Trump, or has he done something specifically that's?
No.
No, I will. I'm gonna be fair. I want to say for that because he has rehashed that point several times.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Can I just say?
Yeah,
I want to ask one final question, and then I don't want to take up too much more time. But Seth, do you personally have a side in this Trump versus DeSantis thing? Do you support one candidate more than the other? Have you made that decision yet, publicly or privately? Is that something that you've made a determination on yet?
The Babylon Bee, which is what is the focus of this conversation, what the Babylon Bee has done. The Babylon Bee doesn't endorse candidates one way or another. If I come out and explicitly endorse one, I'll do so on my personal profile, and that will represent my views. But the Babylon Bee doesn't endorse candidates. The Babylon Bee is a comedy site.
Do you endorse candidates yourself, or no? It's just through the Babylon.
I've never formally and publicly endorsed a candidate. I don't believe. Maybe someone could dig up an old tweet where I did. I don't remember ever doing that.
One last thing: have you donated any money to either candidate, either Trump or DeSantis, since either one has declared, or actually since, or maybe I should say since over the past like 6 months or so?
Whether I had or hadn't isn't relevant to anything. That would be a personal donation. The Babylon Bee doesn't donate to candidates, and it doesn't take political positions. I don't see how what I do personally is relevant to anything.
Did you give $40,000 to Ron DeSantis? Because I'm seeing reports that you may have made a political contribution to Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I've given a lot of money to DeSantis and Trump over the years.
Which candidate have you given more money to? Do you know?
No, I'm not sure.
If I can step in, Nick, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, just Paul. First off, just this particular question on
Yeah,
Seth's.
I wanted to respond really quickly
Sure,
just to
sure.
the general line of questioning that was coming here, because I've addressed this, but the point needs to be made. This was not a political decision. It was not a political decision, and it wasn't done in a way that was unfair, where anyone was singled out and treated differently than other people. It had nothing to do with DeSantis or Trump, and the intentional framing of that is malicious. And so I'm not claiming to be a victim. It's just the fact of the matter that people are lying. They're leaving information out that's relevant. They're making a lot of
Well, could you
assumptions,
understand why it
and
was?
it's because there's a political war. There's a political war here, and everybody's going at each other at each other's throats. It just so happens that the person who was let go is prominent in the Trump world, but it had nothing to do with that. So,
Well, no, it wasn't just the fact that he's
the suggestion
prominent.
that it
No,
does is
hold
ridiculous.
on a second. It wasn't just the fact that he's prominent within the Trump world. It's the fact that the tweet itself was made in response to a very high-profile DeSantis staffer, namely Christina Pushaw. So it was an expressly political tweet, okay? And you fired him in response to that tweet because you objected to his characterization of Christina Pushaw, who again is a high-profile DeSantis supporter. So, I mean, you could understand why some people might interpret, your decision, or whether or not it was a firing, whatever it was, whatever decision you made to, you don't want him representing the company.
I understand why you want to frame
But
it the
no,
way that
look,
you
could
do.
you understand why people
I'm just
might
telling you the facts.
interpret it that way?
Hey, Paul, I think that we can basically color this as this was a business decision made on behalf of somebody who may or may not be a client, who also happens to be associated with an opposite political affiliation, as far as the primary goes, with the person who was let go, who was making said possible client uncomfortable. And it was done publicly to assure the relationship between that person who happens to be a political operative is not feeling, let's just say, uneasy about this business relationship.
Hold on. Let's not put words in my mouth. The context of who he was speaking to, like you guys, there's a lot of words being stuffed into my mouth on both sides. This was a decision that had to do with a pattern of conduct with one of my employees. Well, he was representing the B publicly with our name in his handle and in his bio. And so, the effort to make this a political thing is ridiculous. Had he been a DeSantis supporter and was talking to people on Trump's team, the outcome would have been the same. It wasn't about who he was talking to. So this is not a political thing.
But you do know that unpopular and sometimes reprehensible speech, which again satire can be defined as that, and a lot of times it should be protected speech, right? So I mean, if it's a pattern of behavior, but he works for a satire company which specializes in making powerful people uncomfortable, clearly that should be well within his means, right?
That's not the kind of satire they do, though.
I don't think this person did not engage in satire. He was not doing satire. He was tweeting on company time while he was being paid to work. He was spending his entire day attacking people publicly, and that was a bad look for us. So I don't want anybody working for me who behaves that way, and anybody who continues or starts acting that way while they work for me will also be shown the door, unapologetically and with no regret. So, and I don't care who they're talking to.
If I can add a few things, I know Paul's no longer on the stage, but to address his questions about whether Seth has donated to one or any other political candidate, it really isn't relevant, because what we're really talking about here, with respect to this whole Gavin Wax issue, is an employment decision that Seth actually doesn't need to justify, because Gavin was employed at will, right? And for most of us on this stage, we're conservatives and we believe in at-will employment, and we're not huge on everybody being in a union. So it's a little strange to me that everybody is suddenly saying that Seth can't make an employment decision and is asking him to justify it endlessly, assuming, of course, that he did indeed make an employment decision. But I wanted to offer some commentary just by way of background. I know Gavin. We're both here in New York. I was a member of New York Young Republicans Club for much of last year, which he runs. And I worked with him at Getter, the social media platform that, was trying to be the next Twitter, for most of last year, as well as their director of trust and safety. So I know Gavin. What happened last night was not just about Gavin tweeting with an F word to Christina Pushaw, which, if anybody has looked at what happened last night, is not really what the key issue alone was. What Gavin did was insubordination. When your employer makes a statement to you expressing that they are displeased with something you are doing, that you've been doing publicly, and then you respond to your employer as if your employer is below you, you no longer have a job. Okay, that's something that I don't think anybody should really be disputing. None of us should expect to be able to respond to our boss the way Gavin responded to his boss and still have a job.
Right. And I get that, Ben. We're not arguing
Ben
this on like
but I don't agree with that, because Ben,
legal. We're not.
But Ben, that's not what the argument is, because he did not respond to Seth until after Seth said, take the Babylon Bee out of your bio. So the real question is going to be, and what's going to be decided in court is, was Seth's comment about Babylon Bee?
That's not true. That's not true.
If I may,
that's not true. Clarify.
I responded to. I called him out on the language that he was using, the way that he was speaking to somebody, and he quote tweeted me, and it was in response to his quote tweet.
Correct.
Where I told him to take the B out of that. So he was responding to. He was doubling down on what he was saying and how he was saying it publicly by quote tweeting me. Which, yes, of course, is insubordinate.
Gavin essentially said to Seth, your request to me doesn't matter. Okay, you can't do that and not expect that you might lose your job. But I wanted to really come up on this stage to talk about some of the other things that were happening last night immediately prior to what most people saw publicly, which I have some personal knowledge of.
Real quick, Ben, before you change the subject, though, just wanted to say, I don't think that we're arguing whether or not Seth had the legal right to do this or whether or not this was done, basically in an unforward manner. We're basically just saying that the optics and the blowback of this are going to look very badly and very politically in a way where it might cut the user base of Babylon Bee in half, just because a lot of people are currently fractured among their target audience. So we're just trying to point out how this is, this is basically a shitstorm.
All the concern is just concern about how this might impact us. It might hurt us. I mean, come on, this is silly.
It seems a little disingenuous.
It kind of is, because you guys are a very important player.
Nobody's concerned about whether this is going to hit us. They're actually trying to make this hurt us.
Correct.
And it's look, this. It is what it is. People can feel about it how they want to feel about it. But I need to hop off this space. I got to get running. I've tried to be transparent, address some people's questions. But I need to run. Thank you for the platform, allowing me to address a lot of this, and I hope everybody treats each other with more kindness and respect than they have up to this point. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Seth.
Sorry. So just I was gonna read the tweets. One second, Ben. I was gonna read the tweets that caused the firing, and it essentially says from Gavin, "Hey, Christina Pushaw, what's your effing problem?"
That's not where it started. That's sort of what I was trying to explain.
No, I know. It started from Max, but I'm talking about Seth's interaction with Gavin. So then Gavin replied, "What's yours?" And then the next tweet was, "Tweeting like this with a B in your bio doesn't work for me." So now that comment there, tweeting like this with a B in your bio doesn't work for me. I'm guessing Gavin's team is going to argue that was some form of firing, and Seth's team is going to argue that it wasn't. And then after that, Gavin then quote tweeted Seth and said, "Being accused of things that are false and criminal doesn't work for me." Obviously, he's using the same words that Seth used back onto him, but essentially explaining the reasoning for it. And then that's when Seth said, "You can take the B out of your bio."
Wait, Ben, I'm confused though, Ben.
Now, yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well,
sorry,
I was saying with Ben, you said you knew Gavin. Why did you get fired from Getter? I'm confused about that part.
So I didn't actually say that he got fired from Getter. What I was going to first say is that the Getter situation was actually a part of what happened last night. Max Nordau tweeted at Gavin, asking him why he had worked for a company controlled by and took money from a guy named Miles Guo. So Miles Guo is a massive serial fraudster who turned out to be the sole investor behind Getter. Getter wasn't actually started as an American social media platform. That's what we were led to believe, the public was led to believe, and what I was led to believe when I wanted to go work there and did go work there as their director of trust and safety. In reality, while publicly it was being said that this Miles Guo character was just a small minority investor and that there were a multiplicity of Additionally, it turned out that Getter had actually been created. Again, this is something I didn't know before I went to work there. Had actually been created by Miles Guo as part of his sort of web of fraud. Later, after he left Getter, in February, and he left Getter and then went to the Babylon Bee. Okay. They may have had some layoffs, I believe. They did have layoffs in December, January. I left in September. Gavin wrote a very effusive pro-Miles Guo article. It was in Newsmax and some other places, accusing the DOJ, the Department of Justice, of targeting Miles Guo because he's anti-CCP, when in reality, Miles Guo stole over about $1 billion in funds through cryptocurrency schemes, and saying that he was raising money for anti-CCP nonprofits, and took that money and used it mostly to buy mansions, sports cars, $36,000 mattresses.
So Ben, we haven't got time to go through the whole story, but
to get to the whole Gavin thing. The point is, Max Nordau.
One second, Ben. Isn't it the case though that this person you're referring to, Miles, he hasn't been charged yet, and he
has been charged with wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy.
Sorry, he hasn't been convicted.
He has not been convicted. He remains in jail. He was denied bail. Correct.
Because you mentioned that you left. Did you leave or were you fired from there, Ben?
No, I left. I left voluntarily, and I have documents that I can show you proving that. I can get into that very briefly, just to say that I saw some things that were really not kosher, really not appropriate, and not legal. And when I raised them, they were only fixed in part. The corrective action wasn't taken, and I just really ultimately could not continue to be a part of that if they weren't going to change some of the things that were happening there. And eventually I was told that those things wouldn't change. And so I said, I'm not comfortable being here. And I left voluntarily. And in fact, I have a letter of good standing signed by Jason Miller, the then CEO, who's now back at the Trump campaign in communications roles. I have a letter signed by him, which he actually voluntarily, I didn't even ask for it, voluntarily wrote and signed by him and the head of HR, saying that I left in very good standing and it was voluntary. But here's the thing with Gavin. Max Nordau tweeted at him about his working for Getter and taking money from Miles Guo. That wasn't just about the fact that he had once worked at Getter. It was also about the fact that Gavin had been writing these pro-Miles Guo articles as late as this September, which is, by the way, after Getter had then in December and January basically laid off most of its Americans. There are no Americans who work at Getter. There are no Trump people or Republicans working at Getter. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. I can tell you that for sure. And with just to let me just very quickly finish. And so Ben, what happened with Christina Pushaw?
Ben, you just look. If you want to do a long speech, that's fine, but you need to summarize your point succinctly within 15 or 20 seconds. Because
Christina Pushaw liked a tweet.
Right. Okay. Ben, I'm not trying to be rude, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. We can't have somebody do a monologue for half an hour about somebody's entire life story. You need to summarize the point in 30 seconds. If not, I'm going to move on to somebody else. I switched off because it took so long. Go ahead, Ben.
Here's the summary. Christina Pushaw liked a tweet that Max Nordau had written about Gavin about Getter. It was after that Gavin then wrote his tweet saying, "What the fuck is your problem?" So part of what happened last night is Gavin felt targeted and maybe nervous about, and also didn't really want to discuss his past relationship with Getter. So I can't speak to exactly why that is, but that's kind of what set it off. When Gavin said, "Christina, what the fuck is your problem?" I don't think that was actually about Trump at all or about DeSantis at all. I think that was because he saw that she liked that tweet.
So wait, but
and that's a big part of the story that no one really talked about. And in fact, all day long, Gavin hasn't brought that up again, which is really
wait,
interesting.
so this is like we're talking about this whole thing. This is all assumptions and nothing, nothing that really pertains. This whole thing is because of that tweet, which you just came to the conclusion of. I mean, unless we're
No. I hear what you're saying, but what I'm saying is there was a backstory, and Gavin tweeting at Christina Pascal was about something. He hasn't talked about that again since this all diverted to talking about the Babylon Bee. And I think, and by the way, you're totally right to say that, well, maybe this doesn't have much to do with it, but I think, Gavin's welcome to come up here and say what he really thought about that.
okay, so you're making.
I think that's the only way to resolve this.
Malcolm, to close this.
Yeah, we have invited Gavin, and I believe he is going to be talking about this soon. So, sorry, Chief, you're going to say, because we are going to be wrapping up soon.
Yeah, I would say to close this loop up, because I just think that it was a lot of information that is a lot of just like reaches or jumps to things, when all this should be focusing about is just how it holds, how how Christina character liked the tweet from Max, who has said things about theology and a couple other people or whatever, and whatever you want to say, but he had made a tweet about insinuating something criminal about about Gavin or something like that, something that puts him on a bad light, and Christina liked it, and Gavin saw it as an attack on him, and it was more of a criminal inferral. So he said, "What's your problem?" And that's what this whole thing kicked off on. So that should just be this.
You're better at summarizing than I am, so thanks for that.
Yeah.
Look, let me. So I've been in the corporate world, also in the private political world. I was chief marketing officer of a large telecom company in LA. I've been vice president of marketing. I've been any sort of executive role, chief data officer. And I'm telling you right now, it was not there must have been a history going on. You don't fire a guy. This must have been like the last straw. So I'm guessing there was a history of problems between the CEO and Gavin. You can't address it any other way. That's got to be the issue.
Justin, just to confirm, Justin, I mean, Seth confirmed that. So Justin's right. And again, you don't have to believe Seth. You don't have to agree with his decision. But his explanation is that there was a long pattern of behavior that he didn't agree with. And that's what it comes down to.
But hold on. But he said...
Bonchi, sorry. The question is going to be, and I guess we're going to find this out when it goes to the court, or if Max speaks, whether there was a long pattern of behavior is what Seth's saying, but whether he ever approached Max about it. So, because if he did, then you're right. But if he didn't, then it sounds like an excuse, like there was a long pattern of behavior. I didn't mention it, and now I fire him. But you're right. If there has been, and he's had and I did ask him that question, if he's been through reprimand, if he's been through disciplinary issues, then that's a totally different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm saying that we don't know the internals, and I'll just 5 seconds here. We don't know the internals, and we're kind of going back and forth and speculating. But at the end of the day, I don't even think the answer to that question matters, because like Sebastian said earlier, he's an at-will.
From a private company, not one person here has made that assertion. The thing that I've just trying to say is,
no, but the problem is, I mean, I don't know how US law is, but in the UK, for example, what happened could be unfair dismissal. So we need to, so that it have.
I believe where the B is incorporated, it wouldn't be a problem, but I'd have to
hold on. Gavin's trying to do some wrongful termination thing. We'll see what happens. I have no clue or anything, but I'm guessing that. But the whole thing was, he, even in that space, he said one thing. He said it was not the volume of the tweets, but the mean-spirited things. And then he brought the pattern. That's why there is this disconnect with me right now.
So guys, I received a message from Raheem. Obviously, I have invited him to come as well. Yeah. He is the person who has hired Max now that he was fired. So he did a good tweet where he said, "You guys fire publicly and I hire publicly." So I like that tweet. But anyway, he said that, for your information, there was no pattern of behavior in the organization. Gavin only ever received praise from his bosses. There's not even one ever case I've checked. So that's from Raheem.
Was he a W-2 or a 1099? Anyone know that?
So anyway, what I'm saying is, Justin, I'm just reading what he said.
Gotcha. No. What I meant is, do we know if he was W-2 or 1099?
I'm not sure. But could I fish the quick?
So what I'm saying is, I mean, Raheem hired him, so that's something to know. But yeah, Justin, what did he say? Sorry, was he
So
what?
in the U.S., if you were a W-2 employee, you are an actual employee of the company, and you participate in its benefits. There are requirements. There's also laws that cover you there. If you are a 1099 employee, you are a contractor. Sometimes they'll give contractors titles. I served as a chief marketing officer of a company at 1099. So I'm just curious, was he a 1099 or was he a W-2? Does anyone know?
No, I don't think, right?
Yeah, we don't know. He didn't say anything about that.
I've asked Raheem, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so just because the whole thing was the whole volume versus amount of tweets, and then the question that was brought about the we're not going to know about this, but the policies about Twitter usage, and if they're tweeting some vulgarity or something, is there any consequence for that? We don't know if at any point the bosses sat Gavin down and told him not to do these tweets. We have no clue about any of that information, and he can't confirm that because it's an internal matter. So we're doing a lot of speculating on that front, but in reality, what we can see is that there, at a very minimum, are people who are with the Babylon Bee, who are employees, who have not good spirited tweets or a common pattern of using vulgarity. So whether or not they'll be enforced, it's up to that. That was my whole big qualm with going in here, because I saw as selective enforcement of things. But then when Luma brings up other points about potentially there being other payments, and now my mind's more into that. So
Yeah, and that's it.
Guys, listen, I think we've covered this issue quite extensively. We've heard the arguments from all sides. I want to give a shout out to the team, because we initially were going to do Trump and DeSantis, and then it was quite late on we decided to the Babylon Bee. We did invite Seth, and credit to him that he came on with hardly any notice. We invited Max. I do believe he had prior engagements, so he was unable to attend, and it looks like he was basically getting a new job at this time.
And we had Seth here for, over an hour cumulatively, at least an hour cumulatively.
Felt longer than that, Nick. I thought he was here for at least a couple, but you're probably right.
It's hard to keep track sometimes. There's a lot that goes on in the background here, guys.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I do want to thank everybody. I think we did it in a very fair and balanced manner. We allowed people to really grill Seth. At the same time, we did balance it out, and when people are pushing maybe too aggressively, we did try and calm it down. So I think we balanced it quite fair. But it wasn't a situation where we brought Seth up and just let him say his narrative. He was aggressively at certain points, emotionally as well as some points, really put to task about a number of issues. He gave us the answers that he was able to give at this specific time. So now I do appreciate Seth coming on, because he was able to give his perspective, his ideas. You have to also understand that this may go down the legal avenue as well. So there may be a scenario where he's unable to talk about certain things that essentially will impact him on court. And just from my personal opinion, I think that's the reason why he wasn't specifying afterwards whether it was a number of actions that happened over time that caused this, or whether there was a scenario where it was specifically the impact of it, or because you gave two arguments in terms of the veracity of it, or whether it happened continuously. And I believe, in my opinion, that's because this may go to court. But anyway, thanks guys for listening. Much appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow. I don't know what the news is, unless something else kicks off on Twitter. We might have another issue to talk about. But yeah, appreciate you guys, and see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern.